All right, that should be a good one.
You ready? Nice clap, yeah.
You like that clap? It's a good clap. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to, I guess, Zane and Lane. Obviously, you see, this isn't Zane. This is my friend Alec. How you doing, Alec?
Doing great.
Doing good?
I'm excited.
We'll get you introduced in a second, but I just want to catch people up on what's been going on, I guess. Basically, Zane just decided he wanted to leave the pod to figure out some stuff on his own and pursue some things that he wanted to do on his own. So that being said, we got a rebrand coming. I don't know what it's going to be. We'll figure it out when we get there. But yeah, I mean, thanks to Zane, I guess. Not I guess, but just thanks to him, man. He kind of helped me get this off the ground, and he's going to figure out what he needs to figure out. And we'll just keep on going. But yeah, this is Alec. Alec's a lifelong friend of mine. He's just kind of coming in today as a guest, and we're going to figure out some interesting things I want to talk to him about. But yeah, man, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Glad to be here. Glad to fill in the gap.
This is weird. It's like a radio show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I listen to radio. I listen to podcasts all day.
Have you been on a podcast before?
No, I'm a podcast virgin.
Podcast virgin. Was it first time listener, first time call, or long time listener, first time caller?
Exactly.
Yeah. How does it feel to be on this side?
Feels pretty good.
You feel.
Let me take a drink.
Take a drink and let me know how you feel. It's different. It's different being on this side. It's like as soon as the cameras turn on and as soon as you go, it goes from a casual conversation with your friend to, oh, damn, there's cameras on me. But it goes away in a little bit.
Yeah.
And I feel like my voice, as soon as I turn on the camera, I turn into like a little bit of a character, a little bit more.
Yeah, well, I feel like I need to do that because my voice is basically the most monotone, baritone
you do have
voice possible.
One of the deepest like monotone voice I've ever heard, which is funny. And maybe it'll come across real crisp on the podcast.
It probably won't, but
we'll figure it out. But Alec's been a lifelong friend of mine. I met him in, I think, maybe 5th grade, maybe a little bit before that, maybe 4th grade, but kind of became friends with him again in 5th grade through RuneScape, I think. Mutual friends of ours used to play RuneScape, and I would lie and say I played RuneScape.
I was going to say, I played tons of RuneScape, but I don't remember playing it.
No, I would just try and join the conversation because, like, trying to be relevant. It's when Erath flooded and we went to G.H. Williams for a year. Yeah. And that's how I met you and the rest of the gang.
Is that what it was in Abbeville?
Yeah.
I can never remember. My memory is...
So where it really kind of connected is... like, I knew who y'all were before that, but where it connected is... It was like 5th grade or whatever. And that's where I first met y'all and got introduced, really. It was J.H. Williams, and I would hang out with our friend Brett, and he would be with y'all on the lunch line, and I'd come stand next to y'all, and y'all would talk about RuneScape, and I was like, yeah, I was...
Well, I don't even think Brett played RuneScape.
No, he just knew y'all played RuneScape. Yeah. So I would be like, yeah, I was hiding in the bushes and shooting this gun. They were like, oh, yeah, you had a dwarf cannon. And I was like, yeah, of course.
I'm actually surprised you got that right.
Well, like, since I was a kid, I've gone back and played it. I've played RuneScape for about 3 or 4 times now, just restarting. I probably only have, like, let's be honest, like 40 hours into the game or something like that. Like, nothing crazy, nothing serious. But at least I have a basic understanding is, like, I know what, like, D-longs are. I know what, like, if you go and you run the barrows and, like, I know stuff. Like, I actually got off Tutorial Island. Now, I'm not an expert on it, but it's just, like, a fun topic that keeps coming up in life. I feel like RuneScape, and our friend Brennan says this all the time, taught him so much about economics and everything like that. And I guess that's a perfect segue to say.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Yeah. I didn't like make the connection. Like back when I was a kid, I wasn't thinking about that. But in the game, I mean, there's a lot of scarcity involved. There's a market. Mm-hmm. Whenever you go, you can trade with other players. And when we were kids, that's kind of a new concept. You would basically just meet up in the world. There was one spot in the world where everyone would get together.
This is a grand exchange. Is that what it was called?
That was later. The first thing, everyone would just go to this one park, and there was like there's like 2,000 people in the world, and you could at least 1,000 people probably were standing there, basically just typing with words coming above their head, saying, "I'm selling this item for this much," and it's kind of just like an auction. Like, and without realizing the concepts, you're sitting there figuring out a market price.
Yeah.
but we didn't know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because like we play games like that now where we just played what was it, New World, and like the market was evolving as we were going and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one of the things that I wanted to have Alec to come in and talk about. What is your exact position? You are accountant, right?
Yeah, I'm an accountant. Yeah, and my degree is in accounting, but
I would say
my interest and like passion is more of economics.
Yeah, I would say at worst, and this is at absolute worst, Alec is a informed hobbyist economist.
Armchair economist.
Is that okay? Yeah. See, okay, so you know shit that I don't like. I don't even know terminology.
I've never like titled myself that, but
so what is an armchair economist or economist?
Well, armchair is like you can be an armchair expert about something. Basically, where you're not, you don't have a certification or a degree necessarily, but it can be a hobby and you can just know about things, which I think is kind of the future. I feel like certifications and degrees are on the way out, not quite, but like a college degree and stuff like that, it doesn't mean quite as much depending on your field.
I'm actually glad you said that because that's kind of one of the things I wanted to get into later. Just we kind of got some news with school and all that stuff, but I feel like we've been taught like our whole lives, because in our parents' generation, having a certificate that said you graduated was like the most important thing ever. Like that was success. But now I guess it kind of becomes a market of its own. Everyone has that now, so it's not that valuable. Like everyone has a college degree. So
yeah, that's exactly what it is.
So it just
like if everyone's a millionaire, no one's a millionaire.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
So it's not as valuable as people have put it to be in the past.
It's valuable to a recruiter that stares at resumes all day, and basically the title, when they see your degree, they won't throw your resume in the trash. Like you'll be in the filter. You'll get through that first stage.
It's like a checkpoint.
Yeah.
You have to please these gatekeepers in order to even show them what you can prove, which I really hate that, because it's like you never know someone's true talents unless, like you witness them, I guess. But then like, what are you supposed to have? Like for a lawyer, you're supposed to have a tryout? Like, no, you kind of just have to.
Yeah, it depends on the occupation. Yeah. Like going to college is still good for STEM fields, I guess.
Yeah.
Like if you want to be even an accountant, like I pretty much have to have a degree. It's kind of just showing your skill right off the bat. If you're like a programmer or a web designer, you don't need that. You can just make the websites and that's your portfolio. Like if it's something you can have a portfolio with, then the credential isn't really that important.
I do think that like in college and stuff like that, it's very beneficial. I have a lot of friends in the arts, and the most thing it's beneficial in is building your portfolio.
Yeah, especially the arts. Like for a lawyer or an accountant. So like for a lawyer, you have to pass the bar if you legally want to practice. And the bar, I think it requires you to have a degree, but I don't know. But if you want to be a CPA, you have to have a degree. Like it's just kind of built into the
CPA.
Certified Public Accountant.
Okay, I'm going to have to get you to break down a bunch of acronyms like today, because you're probably just going to spit some out. And that's cool because like I don't know all the acronyms and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, off of that, I guess let's go back in there. I guess we jumped off of RuneScape already. I kind of want to circle back to that because that's always entertaining to bring up. What do you think is like, just so I can look it up and give this a little test run, because we got our screens running, we got everything situated now. Hopefully the set looks good to y'all. It's still a work in progress. I bought this giant ass tree. It's way too tall for the thing. I just went and bought the biggest fake tree I could because my other one was dying, and this one is huge.
It still has the price tag on it.
Still has the price tag on it. We got green and red. It's Christmas. I'm kind of dressed like an elf. I'm all in green. You're in
green and red.
Yeah. Wow, we didn't even do that. You got red shoes on, drinking red wine. This is nice. Yeah. This is nice. Oh, let's see. Let me knock this down.
It's very dangerous. Actually.
What do you think is, like, in your mind, what's like the most valuable like RuneScape artifact? Because we're gonna tap into the video game market real quick.
Valuable art, like an item in the game.
Yeah. Like, is it the D-Long? Is it?
No, I mean back when we played,
there were some whips, right?
The whip was relatively expensive, but I think the most expensive thing was called a party hat.
A party hat. I remember they would do drops for party hats.
Yeah, drops for party hats. People would scam other people, and they would say, "Hey, follow me. I'm quitting the game. I'm gonna go drop all my stuff in the forest, and you can have it." And they'll take a group of people up into what's called the wilderness. You walk up north, and you cross over a ditch, and that's where you can attack other players. And he would have a gang waiting, and they would slaughter the whole group and kill, take all their stuff. the people were just following him because they thought they were going to get his free stuff.
Yeah.
But he wasn't quitting.
What's crazy is I know dudes out there that have played RuneScape their whole life, learned about that, and then still get set up by these women out here. Like, people have been... It's kind of crazy right now. That wants me to bring up something else. Like, it's the holiday season. Scammers are out. People are robbing. People are stealing packages from doorsteps and everything like that. I didn't tell you this, actually, but like 2 days ago, this whole like street, everyone's cars got broken into. Whoever left their doors unlocked, they were just going around pulling handles.
I got to get out of here.
Taking cash. It never happened before. But what happened is all these people have gotten so comfortable because everyone has cameras that everyone just leaves their door unlocked, which is stupid. But also like down here in the South, like that's kind of a common thing that people do. They feel safe. Their car is a extension of their home property and all this stuff. And a lot of people don't even lock their front doors. But this is kind of a PSA. Like, just lock your doors. If you got some packages coming in, get your neighbors to take them in if you're not home, or vice versa. Just kind of schedule your stuff smart. Because like I said, like 4 or 5 cars got broken into down here. A bunch of money was stolen. A bunch of... No, not mine. I locked my door.
Nice.
Nikki locked her door as well.
Yeah. Door.
You know, I'm not here to dig on anybody I didn't. Yeah. But yeah, you would think,
I'm
okay.
here to dig on them. That's why I came here.
That's why you came here. You gave me the edge.
Speaking of locked doors, our apartment door, there's something wrong with the lock.
You want to say that on air?
Well, actually, it's actually more difficult. I can barely even get in and out of my apartment.
So it's good.
Yeah, like I turn it and then there's something that gets stuck on. So I'm just sitting there trying to get out of my own apartment, in and out. I've had someone like come deliver a package.
Is it the key that gets stuck?
No, the key goes in. It's something within the lock itself. I've actually taken it apart. Not completely. There was a certain point where I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
I might have a tip for you.
Yeah.
Go get some graphite powder and spray it and squeeze it. It's a tube. You squeeze it into your lock. It might just be that your lock itself is not lubricated, and graphite powder.
Well, it's smooth up until a certain point in it.
Yeah, and that might be what it is. So graphite powder is it's a non-liquid lubricant. It's graphite from literally a pencil, but it's ground up, and it's meant for like small surface areas like that can't stay like wet. I think it's like for small things exactly like that. And just take a little bit and squeeze it.
My door is not on the hinges correctly, which is
an easy thing to do too. You can just adjust.
If you look at the door, it's kind of.
Are you on TikTok?
No, I'm not on anything.
I'm not on TikTok, but all the. Wait, what? You're not on any social media? Yeah. Well, let's get into that after this. But there's this video that's going around. It's like this dude, and he's like a handy guy, right? Trying to show kids like who didn't have a father, or whether anyone a fatherly figure to teach them things in life, how to do things. And he was there's this video that keeps going around. He keeps adjusting a door, and like it makes it fit perfect. I guess it's so like people share it because they're like, fuck, like my college dorm door is
adjusting
terrible.
The whole door.
Yeah, it's off the hinges. See, if you were on TikTok, you would see that.
Yeah. Well, I guess I gotta get on TikTok.
I'm not even on TikTok.
For the handy
but it's cool. All the videos come across all the other websites, so I kind of see all the cool ones anyway.
Well, Delaney shows me TikToks all the time.
Well, who's Delaney?
Delaney's my wife, my wonderful wife.
Wonderful,
lovely wife.
As he spins his wedding ring.
Shout out Golden House Entertainment.
Oh, hey.
Instagram and Facebook. Go check it out. If you're getting married, if you're a couple and need some pictures, go there.
She told you to say that?
No.
That's a general laughing reaction to me. I invite you to the podcast and you give a plug.
Yeah, I actually got to go now, so.
No. Well, it's been good. Remember what it is, what it isn't, what it could be, blah, blah, blah. No, but so Delaney's your wife, and that's another thing, too. You're 26 now. You're married. That's becoming I don't know. How do you feel about being married, quote unquote, young? Because like we are still pretty young. How do you feel about that? Has anyone asked you about that yet?
I mean, people have they've asked me in a joking way that everyone asks when you first get married, like, oh, how's married life? It's great, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, what?
Some of my friends tell me it's like exactly the same as it was.
It is the same. We've been together for a long time. I mean, it changes. It didn't. I don't know. It's like a hard question because legally it changed. To me, it's more about the commitment, and I had already made the commitment. It was more of just a formality, I guess, and like a ritual with friends and family. But yeah, and as far as the age, no, I feel good about it. I feel like the opposite, like the part of our culture that says, "Oh, I'm not getting married." Like I was like that for a little while. I didn't know if I wanted to, but I changed my mind, and I feel like it's a good thing to do.
You didn't want to get married at all, or you didn't want to get married young?
At all. But it was more of like this angsty teenage thing.
Yeah.
But I think kind of what I realized, along with a lot of other things, is like it's more about the responsibility and having that commitment, and
that simple title ties a lot more responsibility to it.
Yeah, I think responsibility is key.
That's definitely it. I wanted to ask, like, because you're Mr. Armchair Economist. I'll just call you Mr. Econ.
Okay.
All right. So
kind of corny, but yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah. Damn. All right.
No, let's go.
Would you like say that? I gotta ask you, like, do you think you got married because of ritualistic things, or like did it benefit you in a business mindset, like in an economist mindset? What are the benefits of being married? Explain that to me.
Not necessarily being married, but living together.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's why I made the decision.
No.
But
let's remove you from the situation. Let's kind of.
Okay. Yeah. It absolutely helps. Just like any roommate, you're splitting a fixed cost with.
Right. But I mean, legally being married, as far as taxes, insurance, and things like that, is there any benefits to that, or it depends on your income situation? And
I mean, if anything with taxes is a black hole.
Yeah.
Combined with a rabbit hole, it's whatever. It's even as an accountant, I don't like tax. Like there are accountants that do tax, there are accountants that do audits.
Yeah, that's
public accounting. I don't do either of those things. I don't want to do tax, but yeah, like as far as marriage, there are some tax advantages, and there's a whole book you could read about that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's not a massive difference, but it is a difference.
You're right. Because I've heard people say that, like, we're not going to get married because, let's say, our incomes are going to combine, and then we won't get, like, the insurance, like healthcare, or like.
Well, I always hear, "Oh, I don't want my income to raise. I don't want this raise at my job because it'll put me in the next income bracket." That's a myth. That's not actually detrimental to you.
Really? Because, like, I've always seen it, like, so the thing is, like, there's a few different like tier points in like the financial scale, right? Obviously based off of tax brackets, but like sometimes like you'll get that raise at your job, and because you'll get that raise at your job, you'll make more than you need to qualify for free healthcare. So you have to take that into account of what you're making, and then how much you're going to be spending on excess on insurance and things like that, and balance out.
Yeah. Insurance is a whole nother beast.
It's a scam.
It is a scam.
It's a scam.
But we can get into that later. But that's why I'm just talking about like income tax.
Yeah.
When you get into a new tax bracket, it's every next dollar. So I don't have the tax brackets in my head right now.
Right.
But let's just say the first tax bracket, $0 to $10,000, is no tax.
Okay.
When you make $10,001, that doesn't mean that $10,001 is now taxed at the next bracket.
Oh.
It's
only that $1.
That $1.
Oh.
So it goes in tiers like that. So if you get into the next tax bracket, then. No, it's not going to mean that on net you're making less money. That's not how it works.
Yeah, so it's just that additional money is taxed at a higher rate.
Yeah, it's always the marginal tax rate is what it's called.
Interesting. See, I have a general understanding of a lot of this stuff, but as far as like, I mean, that's why you went to school for it.
Yeah, and I didn't even, the tax classes in school were the worst and most difficult classes I've ever taken, and I didn't even do well in them. It's just those classes made me realize I don't want to do tax because it's so complicated and arbitrary, and there are 15,000 rules, and then with each rule there's an exception to that rule, and you got to know what it is. And
then, am I wrong? But doesn't it not go state by state?
Yeah, every state has different.
And then you're looking at so many different kinds of taxes as well, such as like income, property, all these things.
Yeah, like in Texas, you don't have state income tax, but you have higher property taxes, but you still have federal income taxes. So there's the different states, and then there's state and federal, which is different. It's ridiculous.
Why didn't they teach us this in school?
I don't think they want you to know, honestly.
They want you to just like get stuck in the system and just continuously like maintain the financial classes.
I mean, it gets into like conspiratorial territory.
But that's what podcasts are about, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm saying, I'm sure some conspiracies are true, and definitely some are true. But as far as whether there's really a small group of people pulling the strings, it's not quite that way.
Yeah.
When it comes to the tax system, that's just years and years of arbitrary rulemaking from different people coming in and out. Special interests want these certain things.
Yeah.
But just looking at the overall effect of it, it is overly complicated, and it does damage to the people they think they're helping. And like, for example, payroll taxes, they completely, it's supposed to be to where they're funding Medicare and Medicaid.
Right.
But if you think about it, just think about when you get hired somewhere. If you go up to, even if you were negotiating, that's not really done these days, but, I want $10 an hour.
Right.
If you agree on $10 because of payroll taxes, not only are you not getting $10 an hour, they're paying more than $10 an hour when you factor in all the taxes. So it's always, it's just a complete mess. And to overhaul it or change it is also just a monumental challenge.
It's like changing us from like imperial units to like the metric system, something like that. I saw a video in like a documentary really of how much it would cost to change every road sign, everything, all these other things like road signs, stop signs, everything, speed limit signs. It would be like $4 trillion or something like that in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, you could just make up a number, but at this point, spending doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
What did they spend in 2020, 2021? That's why the world's going crazy right now. That's why, and I have in my notes here, like, eventually we'll get to talking about like inflation.
Okay.
And that's all because of government.
Well, to spending. Get off of the doom and gloom, because you did mention that taxes were a rabbit hole and a black hole or something like that. Doom and gloom.
Yep.
I guess we'll end it on this. Well, maybe I'll say this, but I don't want to dive too much into it. We'll just discuss it, I guess. I had heard that we are in like the biggest, like the most amount of inflation that like the inflation that happened in the last year is more than that happened like in 30 years or something like that.
Almost 40 years.
Almost 40 years. Is that true?
Yeah, it's true. Since like 2010, I don't know all the stats. My brain's not that good with stats. I know concepts more than stats, but
that's the thing, because stats are facts, and that's the good thing about a podcast. You don't have to be factual.
Well, so the percentage, it's a very complicated topic, but
let me listen.
The way that the government will measure and present inflation to people is called the CPI, which is a consumer price index.
Price index, okay.
And note the word consumer. That's what they think you are. You're a consumer.
Right. Okay.
And this month, it's kind of year over year. So, are we in November? We're in December. Well, November 15th. 30th, they compare last November to this November, and it's I think 6.2%. It's kind of been going up since April. I think it was like 4 or something in April.
Yeah.
Since 2010, it was around.
So you said 6.2%?
Yeah.
Well, what do we expect on a normal year? Like from one year to the next, traditionally, what is that?
Well, since 2010, it was relatively like between 0 and 3 or 4%.
Okay.
But the thing is that the central bank, they have a mandate, and their goal is 2%. They have a stated goal of 2% inflation.
Okay.
Which, off the bat, is, if you get deep into like monetary theory, you realize like just right off the bat that is ridiculous.
It's impractical. Is that what you're saying, or is that?
Well, it shouldn't. There's. Without getting into too much detail, it's arbitrary, and it should not be happening. In fact, it should be the other way around.
Do you mean that they shouldn't allow for or allot for that much difference, for that much?
They should not be. There should be no entity that is manipulating the money in order to even achieve what they want.
Okay.
Your money.
That sounds like capitalism, like in a nutshell, to me, though.
Well, people complain a lot about capitalism today, but we don't really have it, at least not in as pure of a form that people think we do.
It once was.
Yeah, once, a very long time ago.
Yeah.
But through regulation and mostly central banking, which is what I'm talking about.
Goldman Sachs.
Goldman Sachs is just a bank, but they have a bank.
I just hear that name come up so much. Sachs, I don't know what it, like, granted, I know it's a huge bank that is behind a lot of things, I guess, supposedly. But what I hear is like, a lot of people, like, let's say like a Alex Jones or whoever else, somebody like, they just bring up that name so much, and so much blame gets put on them. Why is that necessary?
Well, I don't know a whole lot about Goldman Sachs in particular, but they've just been a very large bank for a long time, and I'm sure they're involved in many scams. But the point is that they are one of many very large banks like Chase and JP Morgan and Wells Fargo, those kind of large banks.
Yeah.
They are in what's called a Federal Reserve System.
Okay.
The Federal Reserve is the central bank. So the Federal Reserve is their bank. They have a bank. And due to the way that the system's set up right now, if they're ever in trouble, they're bailed out by the Federal Reserve, which happened in 2008 and happened in 2020. But so the central bank, just thinking of it as the bank for banks, it's the place where back in the day, people would use gold as money.
Yeah.
Think of that. All the gold would be at the central bank. And in exchange for your gold, you'd get a note.
Right.
That I'm going to bring this back to the bank and I'll get some gold.
But we're not on the gold standard anymore.
No. That's really the crux of all of our problems.
So you think it's necessary to have something tangible to back up the dollar amount?
Yes. The dollar, the currency should be tied to something that is scarce, some good form of money.
Okay.
Which has historically been gold. And that's what we had for a long time. So back in the old days, gold was money. You'd have bars of gold at your house. You'd have gold coins. The government, the purpose of the service that the government would provide was minting coins.
Right.
You bring them their gold, they mint it into coins, and the whole point was so you can have accurate weights and measures. So
correct.
If I'm trading with someone, they wouldn't ask me, "Oh, I got to go measure this. I got to go weigh this and find the purity of it."
You would trust your central government that set a standard for
you would trust the mint. You would trust the mint, and that way it would facilitate trade. And someone who received gold, to them, okay, I'm receiving gold, which is scarce. I know someone can't duplicate this. I know it's not the amount of gold out there isn't just going to randomly inflate to where this becomes worth less than what it is. But that did happen. Governments, the ridges on the edge of coins.
Right. Yeah.
One thing that used to happen is that the mints and governments and just normal people, they would shave the edges of coins off and accumulate that gold until they can have more gold.
Okay.
And to prevent that, the mints started to add those ridges. So if someone shaved the side of it, you'd be able to tell.
Wow. So let me ask you this. Do you know why it's on every other coin in the United States besides the penny and the nickel, I think it is? Those are both smooth edged. Now, granted, I know coins are more of a representative. There's not much.
It's representative.
There's not much value in them. Like, I know that's like if you get the older pennies, they have more copper in them. They're actually worth more and stuff like that. But it's just a copper. I think it's a zinc blank with a copper coating or something like that. If it even is copper. But do you know why those two coins are the only ones?
I don't know the exact answer, but if I had to guess, it would be because if a penny is copper and a quarter or a nickel is silver or something more valuable, there's more of an incentive for someone. No one's going to go shave the copper, or less people are going to shave the copper off and accumulate that. So there's less of a need.
I wonder though,
to do that.
Okay, so yes, there's less of a need. I guess the dime would be worth a little bit more. I was thinking maybe it's the smaller coins, but a dime is actually smaller than a penny. So I guess it is the two lowest denominations of money that we all have. So maybe that's why they don't bother with those as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's less valuable.
Interesting.
So there's less reason to accumulate it. If I'm going to, it's called seigniorage is what I guess the term for it is.
Okay.
But yeah, we used to be on a gold standard. Back in the day, you would just trade with gold. There's something that's called salability, and that's kind of the one characteristic of money that's most important. So there's salability across time, across space, and so gold it's portable, it's durable, it's divisible, but most importantly, it's scarce. And so people would use that as money, and because they didn't want to carry around a bunch of gold on them all the time or have to put it in there under their bed or whatever they're doing with it, they would bring it to a goldsmith or to a bank, and the bank would do, like we said earlier, they'd give you a note that says, I can come back with this note and redeem the gold. So you knew that paper was as good as gold. And that's why it would trade around the economy for those things.
Gotcha.
So people started to use paper currency. But what the goldsmiths and the banks would do is they would say, no one's coming to get this gold. So I'm just going to give out some more of this paper and earn interest on this paper. And if no one comes to get their gold, I can fulfill all the redemptions should they come.
Yeah.
If people would come to the bank and all demand gold and you couldn't do it, that's what's called a bank run, which is a term you may have heard. And that's what would cause like bank failures and stuff. People, if there's a crisis and everyone I don't want this paper, I want my gold. They all go to the bank. I'm out of gold. I gave too much paper out. And that's what's called fractional reserve, which is what we have today. But it's a mutated and complex.
So where does this land?
Where does it land?
Where does this land? Like, where does I guess it's just background knowledge. It's knowledge to see it's where we are. Just a brief description.
Well, no, I mean, it's the reason for a lot of the problems we have, particularly inflation. But basically today, if you have a number, let's just say, I don't know what the number is, but the total amount of money flowing around,
right?
Almost all of it is credit. There's barely any dollars in comparison to the total. It's all IOUs. Mm-hmm. It's all obligations in the future.
Yeah.
And what they do is, so without gold being the base layer of money, right now it's basically U.S. debt, U.S. treasuries. So everything is based off of the government's ability to pay in the future. So a bank will take these treasuries and they'll say, okay, I'll use this as collateral and then I'll lend on top of this. Pretty much everything is a derivative of someone else's debt, which is why if some debt fails, it can collapse an entire system because it's all credit and it's all what's called counterparty risk. Basically, you're depending that the bank will actually give me what they say they owe me. When the bank says you have $1,000, there's not really $1,000 in there with your name on it. It's they promise to give you $1,000 in the future. And if they can't do that, I mean, you don't have anything. It's just they owe that to you. Just like in 2008, what really happened was there were a lot of financial instruments that these banks were trading with each other, and they was all dependent on mortgages. So they would let's say someone out in Arizona went get a mortgage, and there was a lot of subprime mortgages, people who are not that creditworthy, and it was facilitated kind of by the government. They incentivize it. So people were getting these mortgages, buying houses that they couldn't afford, and that mortgage was sold to a bank, and then that bank looked at the cash flows that were going to come in the future,
right?
And they sold that to another bank. You sell the cash flows,
okay,
the future cash flows,
right?
And then the bank will say, well, I got these cash flows coming in the future, so I'm going to lend based on that. I'm going to build on top of that.
Yeah.
But if the cash flows stop coming, it all collapses because there's nothing back behind those other financial instruments.
Okay, I see.
Which is what happened, which is why, like in 2020 also, you see the stock market just absolutely plummet. It's because it's all debt and it's all credit. And when one thing collapses, someone else is depending on that one thing. That's going to collapse too, and it all kind of just folds back. It folds back into what's supposed to be gold. But there's no gold.
So that's a lot.
I know.
That's a whole podcast episode wrapped in one.
This is what I spend all my time
that was
researching.
Doom and gloom, and we're all doomed. And I kind of want to dive back into that because, we can talk about so much of that.
But that leads into Bitcoin, which is why I'm so enthused about it.
Which is like why I want to bring you here. Like I wanted you to come on. I want you to be Bitcoin Papi. I want you to be Bitcoin Daddy.
That's a better name. I'll go with that.
I want you to be Crypto Daddy. Or are you going Crypto Papi?
No, not crypto. Bitcoin.
Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Bitcoin's the future. That's what you say. We'll dive into that in a minute.
That's what I know.
Basically, none of this matters because based off this news story, we got new evidence of aliens.
Okay.
This is a story posted by Complex. It says there's a pilot that captures suspected UFOs of the Pacific Ocean.
Okay.
And we're looking at these pictures right now. There's pilots who are just flying over the Pacific Ocean. They saw these 3 rows of, it looks like potentially 3 rows of 3 floating orbs, kind of like the Adidas stripes if you look at it.
Okay.
Now, I know this is a very vague picture. Could you be some simple Photoshop?
Yeah,
but I'm gonna use it.
Could, but
I'm gonna use this as a segue. I think like if aliens are here and this is them in the Pacific Ocean, none of this shit really matters. I think everything collapses. Unless they have something to offer to trade with them and they're not that advanced with us or more than us.
They would definitely be more advanced.
I mean, obviously if they're here, but like let's say like they were just 2 planets away and we never actually got to visit them, which is like a possibility because we're going to Mars soon and shit like that. I don't know. This is just a do you think aliens exist? This is a traditional podcast. This is a baseline. It's a
classic question.
This is a softball pitch to you because what I threw at you before was a lot of information that needed to be said. Mm-hmm. That was a lot to digest. I feel like I'm gonna have to go back and listen to it.
Yeah, sorry. Well, this is what I think about all the time. So I started one thread in my mind and it just keeps going.
And it's just like it shoots it out, which is what this is for. It's just long form entertainment. We've only been at this for 40 minutes. So it's
40?
Like, yeah. How long it felt
Since we started recording?
Yeah.
We're going to go for 5 hours.
We can go for 5 hours. Exactly. That's fine. Like I said, long form entertainment.
Are you serious? 40 minutes?
Yeah. 40. Not even 40 minutes yet.
Oh my God. How long did I talk for?
20 of those.
Are you serious?
No, I don't know. It was a lot, but that's what it's about. No. I invited you here to give me some insight on some aliens. Other stuff. But now that everyone knows all that, the inside workings of what your mind stresses about all the time, now we might have some it'll be entertaining to see what you think about some more lighthearted topics that might not necessarily be lighthearted.
Lighthearted, yeah.
Aliens are there, and I don't want you to dive quite into your angles theories and stuff like that yet, because I want you to get into that maybe later.
I couldn't even explain that.
Maybe another time then. But I mean, what do you think about the possibility of them existing? Like Blink-182 wrote a song, Tom DeLonge.
Yeah, I think it's a possibility. For sure. I think it's highly likely, but I don't know. I'm not going to say 100%.
I feel like based off of statistics alone, like it kind of not statistics, like it almost has to happen. But I tell you, well, you tell me. I
don't know what to tell you. I don't know. I mean, I think it depends on how you see the world in general.
Yeah.
If you really do think that, I guess, our consciousness just randomly spawned from evolution, you know?
Oh, God.
Like the chances of that happening out there in the universe, I don't know. I think if the size of the universe, like they always say,
it's ever expanding, it's infinite, and it's ever expanding. So I feel like purely based off of probability, there has to be another, at least, because they've found 30 other super Earths in the last few years, which is a super Earth is a term they use to describe a Earth-like planet that possibly could support human life, like based off of everything we know, oxygen, hydrogen, all these things, but they're massive, like 4, 5, 6 times, maybe even more than that size of Earth. So I feel like if that did exist, we can't see them yet. They may exist. I think they have to exist just based on, again, off of probability.
The odds, yeah.
Yeah. But I tell you what will tell us, because on the 22nd of December, finally after months and months and years of just delays and things like that, the James Webb Space Telescope will be launching, which I don't know if you've seen anything yet about this, but this has been a project I've been following for the last few years. It's the replacement to, or the successor to, the Hubble telescope. Okay. And basically it's Hubble, but with 10 times or possibly more the clarity. It's a deep space telescope. It's going to fly out. I'll show you some images of it real quick. It's going to be able to capture way past what we can capture now. It'll also have different spectrums of light, such as I think infrared and more stuff than the Hubble had. So it'll be able to see all kind of different forms of light.
So that's going to find the aliens?
Yeah, look at it. It looks like something like it would find the aliens. People they call the acronym the JWST, but to me that sounds stupid because it's the same amount of syllables as James Webb Space Telescope.
Yeah.
It's the same amount of syllables.
It says canceled.
Yeah, it had been canceled a few times and a few things like that. But as the latest news as of today, it should be... What?
From NASA?
No, I don't think it's NASA. Actually, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is NASA. Okay. So, I mean, we'll kind of click at this latest news from it. This is a YouTube video. No, we're not going to have any audio because we're trash. So let me just pull up a little article about it. This is Future Astronomy. Okay, so it's delayed to Christmas Eve or later, so a few days. They're trying to wait for, I think, look at these cookies. What are cookies? Why do I accept them?
It's like, I think it's something in your browser that like remembers your previous
is the government
searches
wanting to track me more, and Microsoft wanting to track me.
Well, the government's not doing it, but they
Bill
probably
Gates?
have access to it. Yeah, it's probably
That's the Patriot Act gave them access to all that.
Yeah, gave them access to a lot of
to
stuff.
Everything. But I mean, the only option is cookie settings and accept. So I'm gonna click accept.
Yeah, it's actually really annoying. Like they ask you, but they kind of imply like they don't even put a decline button.
No, it's like you can go into the settings, but I'm gonna click accept. I feel like back in the day when like the internet was first coming around, like after AOL and like Internet Explorer was just coming around, I remember like, or maybe like became popular and Mozilla and stuff like that. I feel like that was around then, and then I hadn't seen anyone ask me to accept cookies in so damn long, and now it's coming back, and I'm just kind of curious why it is. I'm gonna have to do some research in that.
I think it's because there was some kind of legislation passed at some point. I don't know the details of it, but there was something that kind of updated it or said what websites and our servers have to do. They have like obligations, kind of, and I think they kind of have to do it now.
Over quarantine or whatever it was before, remember people were freaking out. They were like, the internet's not going to be what the internet is before. It's some legislation that passed. I forget what it was. Internet something. I know I'm drawing a blank, but remember it was the biggest deal ever. And then what happened from it? Nothing. Let me finish up this James Webb one and maybe look it up on your phone. I'll tell them about this and you can see if you could look at that, because I'm curious what it is, because like I'm gonna keep thinking about it.
It's something obvious. So
yeah. Like it was basically like the Patriot Act before the internet or something like that. But I guess like the James Webb Space Telescope, we're gonna post some pictures of it. It's just gonna be able to give us so much more in-depth pictures, videos, features of our universe. Not just necessarily like our solar system, but the universe in total and other things that may be out there. And it's finally getting launched. I think it was supposed to originally launch in like 2010 or something like that. So it's been pushed back quite a long time, at least a decade by now. And it's launching supposedly December. It's finally there. And so by the time next time we come on here, who knows? Like it might be out. We'll be watching it. I'm sure it'll make major news. And it kind of is bubbling more, but it's just kind of something I've been following for the last few, I don't know, years out of interest. But did you get the answer?
Yeah, net neutrality.
Net neutrality, that's what it was. Yes, I knew it was something simple like that. But remember that was the biggest thing that like ever happened. People were sharing all kind of crazy stuff about it on social media, and then nothing happened. Is cookies? Is that what happened?
No, I don't. No, I don't think cookies? It was net neutrality. It was something else that just had to do with like privacy. Like, I don't really know what it was. It might have actually been like in the EU or something outside of the United States, but I know it has something. That's why it's popping up again. Like they're kind of reiterating it, and they have to ask you that kind of thing.
But that's the thing. Like no one even knows what the hell it is. It's like whenever, but no one reads any of that stuff. Like I even myself, a lot of times I don't. Sometimes I'll get bored and do it. Like when people sign up for jobs or when people sign up to their new iPhone, like it asks terms and conditions. No one reads terms and conditions. Like we could agree to like sell our souls or grow a third arm or some shit.
I think that's a lot of. I think that's where you sell your data, basically.
Yeah, I've seen words written down in contracts where like they'll have things as broad as like in the universe or of all time. Like they just cover such a broad spectrum. Like if you were to do anything in the entire universe, we will still own these rights for you and shit like that. Like
it's all legal speak.
Yeah,
and a lot of it is it's a template that they pull most likely, and then they kind of modify it based on their individual situation.
Or they know that aliens are real, and they know that in the next few years they're going to come and we're going to be able to fly off Earth, and we're going to think we're going to have all of...
No, we're not going.
We're not going?
No.
You don't think we're getting to Mars in our lifetime?
Well, no, if the aliens take anyone, it's not going to be us. It's going to be the elites.
What if they don't want the elites? What if they don't trust the elites? What if that's why they're coming? Because the elites have ran the Earth.
They're going to save everyone?
Maybe. Noah's Ark, baby.
Is that what it is in the Bible? Is it an alien?
The Ark.
Coming?
Halo's the Ark of the Covenant.
Okay.
The Ark is just a large ship.
Okay.
Yeah. What about that?
So Noah's Ark is a UFO.
Could be. People like associate a lot of like bibliological. Is that the word? The Bible stories to be attributed to people either on like experiencing like psychosis or like psychedelics or aliens and shit like that. People attribute all these stories to maybe these people were people just tripping the fuck out back then.
I think the New Testament was written by the Greeks. And have you ever heard of the, what is it? Euclidean mysteries or something with EU. Fuck, look it up.
Look it up. I'm gonna give Alec the keys.
But apparently, there's like research coming out where people think that like they would drink from these cups or whatever, and they think that it's drugs. I don't know if it was LSD or maybe what's the one?
THC, no, LSD. You've got roofies,
dimethyltryptamine.
Oh, I don't know.
The one that Joe Rogan talks about.
Oh, DMT.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it actually stands for. I'm sure we can look it up.
Dimethyltryptamine.
I'm gonna hand you the hotkeys for a second. I really have to take a piss break. So you are in control of the podcast, 100%. This is the hot seat. This is with Crypto Daddy. So being that like you are the first person in my life that I ever heard anyone talk about cryptocurrencies or bitcoins or maybe even the NFTs. Well, not necessarily NFTs because that's relatively a new development, but I heard you talking about this stuff 3 years ago now, maybe 2-3 years ago when you were talking about Chainlink and stuff like that. And it was just such a far off topic where no one understood anything about it. Granted, most people still don't understand things about it. There's just hobbyists at best, which is what most of us are with everything. I'm a hobbyist podcaster at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious to see, like, I don't know, like, where did your baseline information come from? Like, what sparked your interest in learning about this cryptocurrency about 3 years ago, you would say? Just like randomly. Because you were the first person, like I said, I ever heard anyone talk about it.
Well,
before the internet, before celebrities, before anyone said anything about it, I heard it come from you.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, I certainly wasn't early in the grand scheme of things. I guess relative to other people, yeah. The reason I'm interested in it kind of goes back to just my education, like being in accounting, and I got really interested in banking and money after learning accounting. It kind of opened my eyes to just how things work.
Yeah,
I'd always been interested in that, like my whole life. I was always just curious about how things work. I'm really interested in systems and just wanting to know that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so it was really banking that I got into, trying to figure out how does it work? I'd heard about the Federal Reserve and like, where does the money come from? What is monetary policy? I'd always read about it. Like, how does it work? What do they do? And that was kind of just a rabbit hole that I went down, and going down that rabbit hole, you eventually get led to cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
I don't remember like what
sparked it.
The exact thing was. It was smart contracts, I think.
Okay.
The idea of removing an intermediary to enforce a contract. That got me interested in Ethereum and Chainlink. And for a while, like maybe a year or two,
yeah,
I was really interested in those. And that's kind of the phase that a lot of people go through, is they hear the hype, they see the prices,
and
they get into these other coins, which is what I did too. I had heard about Bitcoin.
I actually want to not stop you, but backpedal a little bit what I said before.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard about this movie Dope? I think I might have mentioned
heard of
it to you.
but I never watched it.
This is the first time I ever heard about Bitcoin actually before that, but I didn't understand it. I think like this was when stories were going around the web where people bought a pizza for 20 Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think it was more than that. I don't remember the number.
Right, but stupid stuff like that. And it's involved in this movie. And basically, they give a brief description of it's an untraceable currency. It deals with the black market or dark web and shit like that. This is a very early understanding. And it was in 2015. That's when I watched it. A$AP Rocky's in this. And
it's pretty early,
a few other characters. Yeah, Zoe Kravitz is in it too. Basically, I think Zoe. I don't know. She's credited. Maybe not. Anyway.
I think if I was younger, I would have gotten into it earlier. But I was kind of just too young to really care or pay attention to this kind of stuff.
But I heard them mention it here, and basically, it was a way for them to do some dealing. I think they were dealing drugs or something like that, but not be able to trace the money. That's where the initial value came in with it.
Yeah.
And that's when I heard about it, 2015. And then maybe a year later, 2016, 2017, you started talking a little bit about it. And I was just like, oh, blah, blah, blah.
I think it was 2017. 2017 was kind of the last time. So the prices have been going up recently. A lot of people are talking about it. And it kind of goes in cycles. And they're called market cycles. And 2017 was that last year where prices went crazy and everyone got into it. And that's kind of when I made like a couple $100.
Right.
But yeah, Bitcoin is the first currency of all of them. And it's kind of the only one that matters.
The first cryptocurrency?
First cryptocurrency.
Okay.
Yeah, well, so, I mean, this goes back to I guess, at least early 90s.
Yeah.
80s, 70s. People who were really into computers and cryptography, they're called cypherpunks. People are really into cryptography, that kind of stuff, and privacy. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what they wanted. And they had other earlier versions called, I think it was called e-gold. I think there was one other one, but those same people were kind of very influential in Bitcoin. Some of those people who worked on those things were contributors to the code of Bitcoin,
right?
And kind of in that community, Bitcoin came about.
Can you give like maybe the brief story of it? Like, what's the guy? He has a pseudonym and stuff.
The pseudonym, the name is Satoshi Nakamoto,
and he's supposed to be
the creator of Bitcoin. He's the one. There's a white paper for Bitcoin. You can look it up. It's Bitcoin white paper, and it's basically just.
And what is a white paper?
It's like
a brief description
like a lot of other inventions or things people come up with, kind of just like a theory or a thesis. Like, hey, I'm kind of a thesis.
Okay, yeah.
It's like 7 pages long.
Okay,
it's not long at all.
Like a user manual almost, in a sense.
Here's my idea. Someone want to work on it. It's kind of just my idea.
Right.
So that could be a white paper for any other
think of phone
kind of invention.
Books when you say like white pages or yellow
pages. Well, no, it's basically just like a document you can look at. It's about 7 pages long. It lays out the whole system, and it's Satoshi Nakamoto is the guy who did it, and that was his name in the forums that they would all talk on.
What was that forum?
I don't remember the website or the name, but it was a bunch of cypherpunks. They would get together, talk about these kinds of things. They would all contribute. It's an open source software is what it is.
Have you ever been on a forum? Like any forum?
Reddit, I guess.
I love forums. They're so full of nerds. Like I've been in so many of them from like Nike used to have a forum. And it was like Nike Talk. And then like I was way back. I didn't even like type in. I would just read people talking about it maybe years after it turned off and stuff like that too. And then like I was into some car forums and some video game forums, and just like it's such a community that just brings people together and stuff like that. And so I feel like that's a very important part of like creating it, I guess. So what you're saying is there's just a bunch of people that got behind it and made it happen. One guy presented an idea. Is that what Satoshi? What's his name?
Satoshi, yeah. He's more of. I mean, I don't know him. I don't know who he is. But what he did was he basically took a lot of different ideas and put them together in a way that made something new. So there's cryptography. There's something called proof of work, which was made up by some other guy. He did it for like email, like to stop spam.
Yeah.
You'd have to kind of like contribute work before you send something to someone.
That's another thing.
Stop spam.
Dude, I need him because I have like 40,000 unread emails because I get so much spam a day, and then I have like probably another 8,000 in my spam folder.
Yeah.
So did his product work or no?
I don't know a whole lot about specifically like the history of proof of work. It's kind of just an idea that was incorporated in. Mm-hmm. And that's the basis of the security of Bitcoin and the network. So that's a very clear distinction between Bitcoin and crypto. Like basically any other coin besides Bitcoin, crypto. And people who call themselves Bitcoin maximalists, like they only care about Bitcoin. They think all the rest are either a scam or going to zero in the long run compared to Bitcoin. But one distinction is the way that the network of computers finds consensus with each other.
Okay.
Because that's really all it is so when you think of Bitcoin, it's a lot of things. Mm-hmm. It's open source software that you can look at, you can read all the code. Yeah. And you just run it on your computer. And there are tens of thousands running on the computer across the world, and has one purpose, basically, is to come to consensus with each other in real time about the state of a ledger. Like your bank has a ledger. Mm. Whose accounts have what. It's just a ledger, and they all come to consensus, and they keep track of where the Bitcoin goes. Yeah. And Bitcoin is the native currency on the network. So it can be more than just money. Yeah. Theoretically. It's just a network of computers, and that's the purpose, to keep track of this money. Okay. There's a fixed supply of that money, which fixes a lot of the problems in the world, because you can't create new money by just lending it out like a bank can. Okay. Like I was saying earlier. A bank, They make all the banks, JP Morgan, all these giant banks.
Right.
That's where money comes from. They just make it. A loan is money.
Print it. So the banks are mints now?
They don't have to print it. They just, in their database.
Oh, the credit. Right.
It's credit.
It's credit.
It's credit. And if the credit would fall apart, right.
Blah, 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 this amount of money.
Exactly. It's all based on your credit worthiness.
Yeah.
If they think that you're going to pay this back and they can make money, they're going to lend it to you.
How do you feel about people that say, like, the most valuable thing you can have in life is a good credit score?
In the current environment,
yes,
it's very important because this is why I'm so interested in it. It kind of, like, Bitcoin is the crossroads for all my interests.
Right.
Technology, economics, finance, banking. It is like the crux of a lot of things. And if you really think about it, the dollar, it's half of every transaction in the world. This is why the U.S. has power. This is a whole rabbit hole in itself. But
this is another rabbit hole.
I mean, everyone knows we don't make anything here.
Yeah.
It's all made in a different country. But what we do have is the dollar, a stable currency, and the system that runs the currency. So we have a clearing system here in the United States. We have a whole banking system. And we have what's called the SWIFT system, which is international settlements.
What does SWIFT stand for?
I don't know.
We can look it up. You tell me.
It has something to do with international payments. I'm sure it was what the acronym is. But basically, this gives the U.S. leverage over other countries. So a lot of other countries, their currencies are pegged to the dollar. So after World War II, there was something called the Bretton Woods Agreement.
Okay.
And this is basically the new international monetary system that was set up. So the U.S. held all the gold at Fort Knox.
Yes.
And the dollar was pegged to the gold. So an ounce of gold would have been, I don't know the exact number. Right. An ounce of gold would have been $30, whatever.
And it would have been relative to that time.
Yes. And this is the only reason there's a price is to fix the amount of dollars flowing around. Because if you have too much, that's inflation. Like, that's a whole thing. You just want to fix.
So originally it wasn't, the US dollar wasn't based on how much gold we had?
Originally it was gold and paper backed by gold.
By gold.
And then in 1913, either 1913 or 14, Federal Reserve, this is the third central bank we've had. Yeah. That's been a contentious issue since the United States inception. Okay. Some people wanted a central bank, some people didn't.
Right.
But this is the most recent one. And basically, that's where the gold would be. Dollars were pegged to gold, so your local bank would have dollars. The Federal Reserve would have the gold. Right. Federal Reserve notes backed by gold.
And that ended 70s? Late 70s?
71.
71.
But so central bank in 1913-14, they paid for a war with the central bank.
In 1914 or
13 or 14.
1913 or 14.
But the World War I, 1917, or 14 to 7, somewhere like right in that time period.
Somewhere in the teens, yeah.
Yeah. World War I. They paid for World War I with the central bank money, which means that they issued more paper than gold. Mm-hmm. That was already the start of it.
And war bonds and shit like that falls into that.
And this happened during Civil War. Even before the central bank, the government would issue paper not backed by anything just to pay for something.
Okay.
So that's kind of like just the start of it, is the ability for the government to pay for things that they don't have the money for. And the central bank served that purpose, whether intentionally or not. That's what it did. It fueled wars. That's the way we paid for wars. We get into debt. It's all based on debt. And so whenever FDR was president, I don't remember the years, one of the things he did, he issued an executive order. This was in the midst of the Great Depression. And basically what they say is, well, we don't want you to hoard gold. We want you to spend the gold. You want to keep the money flowing. We want jobs. We want people producing things.
Right.
So basically, for this reason, we don't want you to hoard your gold. Okay, well, we're going to buy your gold. He confiscated everyone's gold. FDR confiscated the gold of all Americans.
How did that go over?
He bought it.
God, I didn't even,
they say,
I forget about that.
I don't remember the price, but basically he said
they would buy it.
It's a forced buy.
Right.
They bought it and they ended up raising the price and selling it. So,
and this is kind of a similar topic that people have now with like guns and firearms and stuff like that, would potentially be like, what would it be based off of? And land acquisition and stuff like that has happened before. But I'm sorry, continue.
Well, the reason they did it, they say, is so they want you to keep spending. They don't want you to hoard it. They want to keep the money flowing.
Right.
Really what it is that they can't redeem all the paper that's flowing around because there's not enough gold. So to kind of cover their ass, just give us the gold. We'll keep it here. That's kind of the unofficial
explanation
bankruptcy. That's the unofficial point at which we're no longer on a gold standard.
Gotcha.
Because a citizen could not go and redeem gold.
When did that change to where we can buy gold? Because I know a lot of like our people from the boomer generation and stuff like that, which is before most of our parents being millennials. They were Gen X, and so boomers before Gen X. They would gift often a lot of millennials like nuggets of gold for their whatever birthday and stuff like that.
I don't know, between FDR and Nixon in the 70s. I don't know. I can't recall whether citizens were allowed to own it again, maybe. Yeah. But in 71, which was when the official ending of the gold standard was. Mm-hmm. But before that, you couldn't go get gold. Doesn't matter. The only people that could get the gold from the U.S. were other countries.
Gotcha.
But in 71 is when the gold standard actually ended. And now the dollar was just a free floating. It's
basically just arbitrary.
Yeah. Note. And if you look, actually, there's a good website to pull up. It's called WTF Happened in 1971.
Show me. You got the mouse.
I haven't looked at it a whole lot. But basically, 1971 is.
But this is where like
the point of no return is when it switched, and then money and the government could keep using debt to pay for everything, and debt is money. It ends up going onto the economy. This is when the inflation and all these problems started.
This is not what y'all expected. Probably this is some big boy talk. This is big people talk. It's not I don't know. Like I was just curious. I wanted to have Alec on. Like I said, he's very knowledgeable on a lot of these topics. Obviously, y'all feeling that, y'all hearing that, and it's just things that I feel like people of our generation question, but we have no clue where to go to. It's just like, where do we even start? Where are these answers? Like you ask your parents these things and they don't tell you, but
I don't know where the website.
Where do you direct people to? Reddit?
For what?
Like just like a form of information, like an inlet of information to where you could even like learn a process about all these things that are so like not taught in school. I mean, I guess it's the beauty of the internet.
Yeah.
And I guess net neutrality, it failed or whatever. So maybe we can go look it up.
I can't find the website, by the way. It's a website. I thought it was called What the Fuck Happened in 1971.
Yeah.
But I can't find it. And it was a bunch of metrics, like socioeconomic metrics that coincided with the ending of the gold standard.
Right.
But as a source, there's a book called The Bitcoin Standard. It goes through a lot of what I was just talking about.
Right.
About the role of gold and the history of that. The history of all money, basically, up to gold, and how Bitcoin serves the same monetary purpose that gold did.
And I guess is what you mean in layman's terms at the end of it, what drives the value of Bitcoin? Is it the amount of people investing that creates a potential worth of it? How many people own shares of it or own them? Or is it because it's so separate from everything else like centralized banking? Or is it a combination of both?
It's a lot of things. It's what it is. It's a hedge against whatever the government does with the money.
Yeah.
If the government prints too much money, it's good to have gold or Bitcoin. That's why people held gold, kind of as a hedge. But as far as what gives it value,
well, define a hedge.
A hedge is like protection against something happening.
Okay.
So
like a hedge fund.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. A hedge fund will use like advanced portfolios to hedge against certain things. But there's a lot of risk. But as far as what gives it value, it is a global network, which is a value in itself. And you got to remember, values are subjective. Anything can have value. So people see Bitcoin as a form of what's called sound money or hard money, something that you can just hold. I can hold it and I can know I have X amount of 21 million of these. No one can change it. No one can take it from me. They would have to force me to give them my private key to take it from me.
All right.
It's a form of property right that is unparalleled. Like I was saying with FDR, you could be holding gold. Well, that's too bad because you got to give it up now.
So what stops them from doing the same thing with Bitcoin?
Well, I mean, they can't take it from you. They could put you in jail, I guess, but they can't physically
take
it. They can't physically
punish you for having it, but they can't necessarily take the item from you. Okay.
There are options, but
are you willing to go to jail over your Bitcoin?
I am. I'm willing to go to jail.
Damn. Okay.
There are ways. Well, like the main thing is I don't think the U.S. is going to do anything like that. Maybe in years from now, when they really start to realize, oh, this is going to collapse the system.
What happens when it does collapse, though?
It's going to collapse regardless.
Yeah. Is it destined to collapse, or will it be another solution like it always has been? Do you think it collapsed whenever like the central bank took over?
Well, the central bank isn't necessarily the problem. Mm-hmm. It's the central bank without a gold standard. So people like the central bank because they say, oh, in times of need, we can use a central bank. We can send in money, get it going again, get spending going again, and pump the economy up. This is the only thing they do now. Yeah. This is what they did during COVID. This is what they did during all this stuff. They send in money to get people spending. Doesn't even matter what it's spending on. That's the whole problem. There's just money there, getting people going, getting the economy going. Okay. A lot of the rise in stocks and the rise in the economy, you see, there's a difference between nominal and real. Yeah. So a nominal rate can go up. So let's say I can earn a nominal rate of 1% on my savings account. Mm-hmm. But if inflation is higher than 1%, my real rate of return is 1 minus whatever inflation is. Right now, so because of how much money is flowing around and how much money they're sending in, there's hundreds of trillions of dollars of debt. So like you can hold the U.S. Treasury like for 10 years. So you give the government money for 10 years. 10 years. I'll get
was it 7% or something?
It's like 2
over many years. Oh, okay. And then
here's the thing. It used to be a lot. Yeah. But it's not anymore because that's what they manipulate. They manipulate the cost to borrow money. Which makes credit easier to get, which is like I was saying with the banks. They lower the interest rates. The banks can loan out more. Creditworthy people like giant companies can borrow money. We might not be able to borrow money if we're not creditworthy. Yeah. This is what fuels wealth inequality. Because a giant company will either get saved because they're too big to fail, or they will borrow money and save themselves because they can borrow at 1% or whatever. Like I'm a giant company, of course I'll pay you back. Yeah. That kind of thing.
But what happens when this crashes? If you say it does.
Well, it's math. Well, there's different options of what can happen. Yeah. Right now, what the real problem is the debt. Okay. And the debt is fueled by the system having no limit. Okay. No tether to something like gold.
No, there's world debt and there's our debt.
There's our debt. Our debt, I want to say, is...
Let's look it up. Is it trillion? I remember like looking it up in high school.
It's in the 20 trillions.
What the fuck? I remember like looking at the U.S. debt clock and it being like 7 trillion when I was or maybe 2 trillion whenever I was in high school.
It's in the 20 trillions and it's over 100% of GDP. And GDP is our output every year. So it's more, if you take all the output of the U.S.
Let's look up the debt clock in real time and see what it is. Because I remember like one of my teachers showed me 29 trillion. Right. This is crazy to see all this happening in real time.
Yeah. Well, I don't even know how accurate that is.
This might just be based on a tick system.
Like an average. Yeah. But yeah, so that's the U.S. debt. Okay. Which is, I want to say it's like 130 trillion. 130% of GDP. Yeah. Usually, like if you go over 100%.
Which is the gross domestic product?
Gross domestic product, yeah. And I think the world debt is like 300 something trillion.
Okay, explain this. Who does the world owe the debt to? Is it other countries owing debt to other things? And if so, why do they not what happens if they just forgive that debt?
Well, if you forgive the debt, this is basically the different paths I was talking about. Okay. When you're so in debt, so like
if everyone declared bankruptcy.
Well, remember, like I was saying earlier, there are derivatives of that debt built on top of it. If that's not paid, none of the other stuff on top gets paid. It's a depression, like a global, worldwide, catastrophic depression. But what they're doing now, and what they're going to do, no president wants a depression on their hand. Mm-hmm. What they do is they inflate the money. So if each dollar is worth less, if they inflate so much that each dollar is worth less, you're paying back less. The dollars you're paying, it's still the same amount of dollars you got to pay back, but they're worth less if you inflate the currency.
So you actually ended up owing them more. You become, I guess, essentially upside down. Like
you owe them the same nominal amount.
Right.
They still owe 29 trillion. I'll give you 29 trillion, but I made 5 quintillion more, so that's worth
way less.
But here's the thing.
You make the same amount at work, but what you spend on everything else becomes less and less money.
It causes inflation, and the people who only hold money or who get wages or salaries, they're now getting way less. Yeah. This is what's happening right now.
Which I guess is where you say all the strength of Bitcoin comes along, because it's basically finally a chance for people that don't possess all the wealth to have that chance to become.
It's a way for people to save money.
Actually save it.
Save money. If you put money in a savings account right now,
you're losing money.
You're losing money. People don't even know that, though. They see, I'm getting 0.1% or whatever the hell it is. Absolutely ridiculous what you get.
Right.
So you get nothing. But if you don't know like what inflation is, or you might see a price go up. Now you're going to see prices go up for sure. But yeah, you're losing money. You're losing money by savings. And the whole point of capitalism is to accumulate capital. But you can't accumulate capital when you get nothing on your savings. So back to the whole debt thing, everything is based on debt and not savings. A healthy economy is based on savings and not debt. Yeah. You can still have debt. There's good debt. Like, there's nothing wrong with debt. But when everything is based on debt, you have nothing to fall back on. So and because Bitcoin has a fixed amount, you are able to save and accrue. You can do 8 hours of work a day, and you know that your purchasing power is going to be the same next year and the year after that over time. In fact, it's going to get way more valuable.
It's actually going
to increase in value. The whole system right now is inverted.
Right.
You lose money by savings because the incentive is to go into debt to
which
spend
is why money. People talk about obtaining property, obtaining things that will inflate over time, art, whether it be vehicles or things like that.
Well,
your equity.
Real estate, anything hard. Real estate, gold, the more scarce it is, the better it is, because relative to the amount of dollars and credit around, it is going up. So you can see the stock market going up, or you can see housing go up. That doesn't even really mean that it's actually more valuable. It could just mean part of that rise is just relative to the amount of dollars everywhere.
Circulate.
But if you just have dollars, you're screwed. You don't have that.
It can go up, it can go down.
Which is, it fuels, people go divergent ways. People who just have wages and dollars, the bottom of the stack, they lose and lose and lose and lose, while people who have the hard assets, the up and up and up and up and up. This is what the stock market does. That's why after COVID, it crashed. Oh, we're back to all-time highs, baby. The economy's in shambles, but this shit's back to all-time highs.
Speaking of that, what kind of like blew my mind too, and then we'll wrap up all like economics for a bit, I guess, just to get on more entertaining topics, is like when they gave us these stimulus checks or this unemployment and stuff like that, there was never, and maybe this was by design, no one ever tried to make a guideline of, hey, this is what you should do with it, this is whatever. They were just giving out money, and like, I guess that's the whole point, is what you're saying, is the hopes that you would spend it to kind of fuel the economy again and stuff like that.
They want you to spend, it's called Keynesian economics. They want you
to say that again slower.
Keynesian, Keynesian. It's a guy called John Maynard Keynes. He's an economist. That's one way of looking at it. It's all about spending. There's another school of economics called Austrian economics, which is about savings. Kind of Bitcoin is heavily influenced in Austrian, but it's kind of opposite things. But yeah, with those stimulus checks, if you think about it, the real problem, and this is kind of the main point.
Let's end on that landing point of the main point.
I'll make a main point here. Yes, central banking and the Federal Reserve can be bad. It can cause a lot of problems, but the main problem is the government spending, deficit spending, and paying for things with debt, and the debt is monetized by the bank. So we buy our own debt. So right now, the central bank is funding all the deficit spending with new money. They don't have savings to spend. They never have. They're so far in debt, 29 trillion. They don't have any money.
It's crazy just watching it climb.
The Federal Reserve, it's not federal. It's not part of the government. It's quasi part of the government. And there's no reserves. That's the whole thing. It's a fucking con. Just the name is like a fake out. It's not federal and there are no reserves. They just make money out of nothing. So they fund the government spending, and the government pushes all that money out into the economy, the new money that inflates prices.
Right.
That's why, what does the government pay for? Healthcare, housing, education.
Infrastructure.
Those are all the things that are sky high in prices. It's because the government sends money into those industries, and they're doing it with new money from the central bank that they don't have. They just make it up out of nothing. Well, we got to spend for this. But that's where it comes from. The point is deficit spending. So when you get those stimulus checks, it was deficit spending. Right. So yeah, you got money, but the money's worth less because they just devalued it.
And now we're
with deficit spending.
Potential recession because of that inflation so high, products limited because no one worked. It's just a whole large thing.
At a certain point, the interest payments on the debt what they do is they just keep rolling over the debt over and over again.
Yeah.
We get debt to pay off this debt. And eventually the interest payments get so high where you're spending 20% of the budget on paying interest on your debt. This is the whole thing. That's when it collapses. That's when either you have to default and it collapses, or you have to inflate so much to pay the debt that people are in ruins, that prices go up so much and people are just in poverty. So it's the debt. That's the whole problem, is the debt from the government. That's the main takeaway. Don't let them keep spending all this money that they don't have. And it's your money. It's your future. Debt is obligations from the future. And it's you. It's your future obligation. Money. Yes. They're taking from your future is what they're doing.
And how do you, okay, so again, how, we'll end on this point because I've been trying to get off of this, but I'm keep getting wrapped up in it. What is it, through voting? Is it through investing in potential cryptocurrency or actual equity? What's the end all be all that potentially solves the problem before it all?
So Bitcoin fizzles. Is a way to exit the system. When you have Bitcoin, you're not in the dollar system anymore. That can collapse, and it will affect the price of Bitcoin. But you still know what you have. Instead of knowing I have fucking $10 out of God knows how many dollars out there.
Right.
I have this amount of 21 million Bitcoin. I know exactly what Bitcoin is. I know what it does, and I know that it's scarce. I know this is good money.
And that's basic economics, just like we can relate it back to someone that people may watch this, someone with shoes. You buy one out of 40,000 pairs of shoes. Over time, those shoes get beat. People wear them. The product becomes less and less.
Yep.
You know what your shoe's worth. Well, I mean, again, that's based off US dollars, so it's kind of...
Yeah, we'll see all the prices you see. I'm not going to say it's a facade, because it's real. That's the real price of something. But you don't know what the price... All the prices are kind of skewed.
Yeah.
As opposed to prices would be going down. I said inflation at 2% is their target.
Yeah.
Prices should, this computer and the keyboard, that's all going down in price. That's technology.
Yeah.
Technology is supposed to apply to everything, and we're supposed to be more abundant, more efficient, and prices should go down.
Yeah.
But because of this mandate, they keep printing money to keep prices stable because they can't accept the fact that prices will go down when we advance as a society. And we would all have more and greater things and savings to actually fall back on. But yeah, it's all about debt. If you want to exit the system, that's what Bitcoin gives you. And stocks, there's nothing wrong with owning stocks, but know that there's debt and equity being stocks. Equity is second tier to debt. If you own stock in a company, before they give you anything from whatever they have left, they got to pay their creditors. The credit market is way more vast than the equities.
Yeah.
And it affects the stocks. If the credit markets go down, your stock portfolio, it's not going to be fun. But just know that even in the short term, if that were to happen, that's when you buy. After that.
After the crash.
Or if you can not sell, you can just hold. Don't panic sell at the bottom if something were to happen.
Right.
That's where people make money. You buy at the bottom.
Right.
People will understand it.
That's why it's a roller coaster. It always goes up and always goes
just down. Like Bitcoin, people who bought it at, I don't know, when COVID hit, it went down to 3,000. The people who understood Bitcoin, they were like,
oh, hell yeah.
Let me rake it in right now. And now, a couple of years later, they're sitting on a mountain of gains. And there are a lot of people who just are seeing it and they're saying, should I buy? Should I buy? Should I buy? There are people that are going to buy at 70, 60,000, whatever it's going to be. they're going to get wrecked if it comes down, this kind of cycle comes to an end, like a hype cycle.
Yeah.
Those people that bought at 3,000, they're selling on you. They're selling it to you.
Yeah.
The guy who's buying, who's FOMOing in.
It comes back to just, again, sneakers and stuff like that.
Yeah. But know that over time, if you look at the price of Bitcoin, if you think, oh, I can't handle the volatility, it's a bubble. It's not a bubble. A bubble doesn't happen 3 times. A bubble happens once. Mm-hmm. It started in 2009. There was like a bubble in 2013, bubble in 2017, and now there's another. No, it's look at it over a long time, and it's going up,
it's cyclical,
up and to the right. That's where it's going. So know that if you buy it, it's for the long term. Try not to think about the short term. It might go down. It's okay. Hold it for your kids. Hold it for your future.
Yeah.
If you understand it, you don't have to buy it. That's fine. But know that it's for the long term. Who cares if it's 45,000 or 50,000? It's going to 1 million. It's going to 5 million.
Yeah.
In my understanding, that's what I think. That's what I think. So think about that. You just buy and hold it. That's the whole point of it.
So this is me giving back to y'all, my viewers. I had to invite the expert on the topic, the armchair expert, to tell y'all how to get out of potential future complications. Let's say that, right? All right. I guess next thing we could jump into a good segue. You talked about technology, you talked about Bitcoin and things like this, and you talked for a long time, which I'm very happy about.
I'm sorry.
No, it's not at all.
Time like flat. When you said 40 minutes, I was like, what? That doesn't make any sense.
Okay, so we're at 1:26 now, so we'll keep going for a bit. So this is latest news, is Elon Musk is Person of the Year. He's been named Person of the Year by Time magazines. Basically, it's the reason they recognize him is that comes from his net worth surge, making him the richest person in the world. That's out of world leaders, that's out of presidents, that's out of everyone. He is the wealthiest person in the world. What do you think about that? A lot of people are going to be pissed off by this. This just got announced. It's going to make a lot of people mad. A lot of people don't like him. A lot of people don't understand I guess basic economics and why he is as wealthy as he is and all these things. But like, what do you think about that? What do you think about Time picking him?
I think it's deserved. I think he works incredibly hard. He put all of his net worth is in his companies.
Yeah.
Supposedly. I mean, I haven't looked at his at his finances, but
his picture is crazy though. Look, let's just dissect this picture first. He looks like a fucking psycho.
Is he an alien?
Is he a cyborg? I don't know.
He's a lizard. But yeah, I think it's deserved. I think he does some kind of irresponsible things, I guess. Like, he can say whatever he wants, but
he has
feel like
huge influence.
Yeah, I feel like he doesn't take that into account, or I guess he does. He doesn't care. But like he just said today or yesterday, they're going to accept Dogecoin for payment, or so, or they're looking into it. And it's like, okay, that's fine. If you think that's better, that's okay. But like, people will get absolutely annihilated with Dogecoin.
I feel like people, that's like meme stocks or meme coins. People say.
It is. Yeah.
And I feel like he says these things, like he said that a few times to potentially draw more people into things he already is invested in. Like when he had like in his bio on Twitter, just Bitcoin. He would always do that. And then like I feel like his method is, let me obtain a bunch of things, let me make it hype due to my influence, and then I'll sell it all. Yeah. And then like just disregard of it, making money off people. And that's not him being an evil person. That's just pure, like, I guess, taking advantage of like his influence, which some people may see as bad, some people may see as good, all these things. It's just manipulation of, and not even manipulation, because I don't like that word, maybe taking advantage of the situation you're placed in. And who's to say, like, because he's already offered a few things. Like he's offered, like, if y'all show me I can end world hunger with this much money, I will do it. But like, people want him to answer for so many things because he has so much money. But what makes him responsible for that? And y'all can tell me in the comments or whatever. But like, I'm just curious, like, why do people not like him?
Why do they not like him? I guess. I mean, a lot of his
is it because of labor? People. Is it because of how he extorts people for labor? Supposedly,
but does he?
I don't know.
I hear that about Jeff Bezos too. It's like, yeah, maybe. And I'm sure. I mean, it can't be sunshine and rainbows all the time.
No,
like at a warehouse or something.
Yeah. No,
but as far as like, does he deserve the wealth? Yes. I mean, you don't get that wealth.
Earn it. No, you have to earn it.
Yeah.
I don't think it was like, maybe he's like let's say father handed him a little bit or whatever it was. He invested in, I think it was PayPal originally.
He was a co-founder of PayPal.
Yeah, co-founder of PayPal. And then beyond that, like Tesla, before he didn't invent Tesla, he didn't do anything. He was just, again, another investor. And
he was a co-founder?
No, I think he was an investor of Tesla. We'll look it up.
No,
but
I think he was.
To my knowledge, there was this company they had battery technologies. They used to buy Lotus cars, and they would strip the Lotus cars of all the gas powered things and put their batteries in it, which they had good batteries at the time.
Maybe so. I don't know. I thought he was kind of the founder. Like he came up with the first, I don't know, prototype or whatever.
I don't think so at all. I think, again, he was just... I mean, maybe so, but I think because of his investment, I know he has SpaceX and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I guess to look up real quick about like Tesla's origin, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, he's kind of, I don't know. He's definitely admirable. Like, I have no problem with him.
So here you go. So he's maybe not a founder. So Tesla was founded by Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpening. It's two engineers become CFO and CEO respectively.
Are they still there?
Huh?
Are they still there?
I think he might have bought them out basically, but it was basically GM had introduced what it says here is this EV1 program, which was electric vehicle. And this was back in the 2000s. They ended it because they were trying, but like the technology supposedly wasn't there yet. The battery technology wasn't there. That's been a thing that's been holding us back for the last few, I think even decades, is just the battery technology is not there for where everything else is. That's why we don't have smartphones that you don't need to charge forever, smart glasses and stuff like that, because like the battery technology is just not where other technology necessarily is. And basically he came in, I think, as an investor after he sold. And this could all be wrong, but that's what a podcast is for. In my knowledge,
it kind of sounds
he sold
right.
Sold whatever the rights to PayPal, which I think eBay maybe bought or something like that. It's associated with eBay, and then invested it from there into Tesla. And since then, he's founded, I think, SpaceX and a bunch of other ventures and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but I'm not one of those people. I'm not a fan of not many men or many people. I'm not one of those people that just like, oh, all these people follow him, so I have to follow him. No, but I think people are interesting, and I think people's stories are interesting, and I think what people made of themselves is interesting. And Elon, in the last 2 years, has made himself, quote unquote, the most successful man, and basically all time. He's the wealthiest person that ever was, supposedly. Maybe not ever was, but currently. And he had a son recently. I know a lot of people don't like him because he's had a bunch of other kids that he doesn't take care of.
His relationship is strange.
Meme, I feel like.
It's pretty strange.
Here we go. Here's his first picture with his son. I think it was ever released of X Asher A12, I think is how you say his name.
You think that's on his birth certificate?
Yes, supposedly so. Supposedly so. It's like legitimately there. Because it has to do with like these elfin names, and I think it's like different language names that you can apply for or whatever. But yeah, his name is X Asher A12. What do you think they call him? Do you call him X, or do they call him like Asher? It's like the A12 is based off of, I mean, a lot of people know this before, is the predecessor to the SR-71. So everyone knows about the XR-71, which is like the Soviet Union time period during the Cold War. America made this spy plane that was just faster than any missiles and stuff like that. The Blackbird.
Yeah.
So
that's what he's named after.
So the A-12 is a predecessor to that. Watch, it's a plane. It's a spy plane before
Lockheed A-12.
Yeah. And that's one of my...
so that's what it is?
That's what he's named after. This is the A-12, which shares a lot of similarity between that and the SR-71, or 21, 71? 71.
I would have never guessed that it's named after
but he said it in an interview. But also like that when I first heard it, that's what I associated it with. But he's also like an aviation nut. He's just like all these things. And, I watched an interview
he's like
with him.
Crazy engineer. Like it's actually very...
He's one of the lead engineers for SpaceX.
Yeah.
He says he sleeps 6 hours a day. That's all he needs.
Yeah.
What are your theories about that? Like, how much sleep do you need?
7 to 9.
7 to 9?
Yeah. I read a book about sleep.
Yeah.
And that was the recommendation, 7 to 9. But I mean, I'm sure there's people that 6 makes them feel like an 8, I guess. But yeah, 7 to 9.
Well, I'm a 10, so.
Yeah, well, there's such a thing as too much also.
I was talking, never mind.
But, yeah.
Also, here's another thing. Well, this is not that much. I'm not going to go into detail, but basically a senator tells him, they're going back and forth on Twitter, and she's basically talking about like rigged tax codes and stuff like that, and Elon taking advantage of it and stuff like that. But he goes on to state that he is the person that pays the most taxes out of anyone else in American history just this last year alone. So, I mean, like, I feel like he's very factual based. And again, like, he's based in logic instead of feelings. And I feel like to be that successful, you kind of have to be. I'm a person that struggles with that. I see everything as gray or instead of black and white. I have a problem seeing necessarily this is good, this is bad. I'm like, I see the bad and good. I see the good and bad. But yeah, he's very factual based. And I feel like that's what a lot of people have problems with.
It's weird. Like he's being the richest person on earth and being so vocal. It gives people an insight. It's like, oh, this is just a regular guy almost.
Yeah.
But there are people. I mean, if you think about, there are Wall Street people. It's really the bankers. Like I was talking about, like those kind of people, you don't know their names. You never heard of these people. They have so much power.
So much wealth.
And they stay kind of hidden or not like that.
It's the Epsteins.
It's the Epstein. I don't know a whole lot about Epstein, but it's that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It's that there are people.
No, that's a whole fucking episode in itself that, again, I'm not too educated. You can go watch something else.
Yeah, well, no one, that's the thing. Like, they can have a lot of influence without anyone knowing. You can own an organization, like they're called NGOs, like non-governmental organizations.
Okay.
And it's not part of the government. It's kind of almost like a non-profit kind of thing. Money can flow in there. They can control those kinds of things. Like charities, there's a lot of corruption in charities. Because that's kind of like a tax write-off you can do too. You can give money to this charity. You can write that off, but who controls the charity? What do they do with the money? Like philanthropic kind of things can have a lot of corruption too.
Yeah.
And you don't know those people's names.
I feel like there's so many of those like little loopholes that people can take advantage of. Like some simple ones is like you see a lot of celebrities with G-Wagons and stuff like that. Well, there's this way to write it off as a special utility vehicle because if your vehicle weighs over so much pounds or whatever, it can be written off as like a certain company expense or something like that. And there's one of those simple loopholes where like people will buy G-Wagons. One, because it's a luxurious car, it's off-roadable, it's capable, it's powerful, but it looks incredible. But also it meets that standard where it's like over so many things, so you don't have to pay a certain amount of taxes and stuff like that on it. And
well, speaking of Elon, a lot of his sales and his production
come from Tesla stock, right?
Well, the government subsidizes like that kind of energy, that like solar panels, that kind of renewable energy. So there's a lot of subsidies that go into Tesla. People get tax breaks from buying Teslas,
buying EVs, installing solar panels.
That's a cost that people don't really take into account. It's to say, oh, a Tesla costs this much. It's like, not really. I mean, if you're counting all the costs, there's a lot of money going to the government and flowing to Tesla in that way. So things like those kind of things can be more expensive than meets the eye.
Yeah. And that's another thing, again, like these loopholes. I wanted to talk to you, or like, you ever heard about like, that's the thing, like this article says it's like, there's this thing that's like 100 or whatever, a certain amount of like the world's largest organizations are all registered in this one building in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania. It has to do something with the Pennsylvania tax code. Apparently, like there's a certain amount of like taxes that you do or do not have to pay based off of Pennsylvania. So all these things, McDonald's, Apple, all these things, they're in this.
Delaware is like that too.
Maybe it is Delaware.
Well, Delaware is. Joe Biden's been the senator for Delaware for his whole life.
Okay, so everyone is in one of these northeast states where like it's one small building the size of roughly a post office, but everyone has their address tied to that. That's their headquarters, even though it's not necessarily there, but they sell these arbitrary office spaces there that are basically just PO boxes, from my understanding. But because they get so much tax breaks in that city or that specific city state or that city in that state, that all the world's largest organizations in the United States, at least, claim that that's where they're from. That's where the headquarters is based and all that stuff like that. And
I'm pretty sure
crazy loophole.
I'm pretty sure the company I work for does that too. But
yeah, well, we won't talk too much about that because we don't want assassins on our tail and stuff like that. But that's crazy.
But yeah, that kind of thing is what I'm talking about. Like, you can think one person is really corrupt. This other person, I don't want to get political, but just think about how Joe Biden was a senator. He's a Delaware senator.
Well, before you dive too much into that, or like you don't want to get too political, do you feel like you want to announce or denounce your political standings? Like what party necessarily mostly represents you? It's a tough answer for me.
Well, I'm registered as a Republican.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean, I mean, a lot of what's happening today is like those labels don't even mean anything
That's
anymore.
another thing too. Like we registered what we wanted to vote for when we were 18 based off of like,
well, I think I was libertarian at one point.
Yeah, I remember like asking my mom, and like that's kind of a lot of people like do like, hey, like mom, like what should I register as? And she's like, well, all my family members register as this. Maybe you should register as that. And it's such a weird thing. You kind of just get thrown into association with this party just be based off of you not knowing shit and what people tell you.
Yeah.
I guess it's not necessarily important, although it is statistically
It's only important you can vote in like the primary election.
Yeah.
But it's basically, I don't know, like the what a party stands for can change over time. And it always has.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can call yourself a Democrat or Republican, but a lot of what's happening now, it transcends that. It's no longer, so like back in like, well, no, Bill Clinton days.
Yeah.
Democrats were working party, labor. We want to work for the labor unions, kind of do the labor kind of thing.
Yeah.
Republicans were more about capital, want tax breaks, things for business. It's kind of switched in the days, but right now, I think the real battle is: does your country even have a say in its rules? And are you? Do the international agencies transcend a country's sovereignty? Can India or can the UK make their own rules? Can they say, no, I'm not doing this? Yeah. Can they go against the UN or the IMF? And a lot of these third world countries, they don't have power. They're actually in debt traps to larger countries. But so that was kind of like when you think of Trump, like you can think what you want about him. Mm-hmm. Him and Bernie Sanders, they're not that different as far as what they're talking about. They're talking about the labor. They're talking about these people are being left behind because they are, because of all the things that we've talked about, because it's all going to capital. It's not going to labor, but they just have different solutions. Bernie Sanders wants, these people need income and spending. We got to give them money to spend. But what Trump was kind of about, it's all populism. It's all about the people, those small people. He wants you to have asset. I want to have a job at a manufacturing place.
Yeah.
You can disagree with that too, like whether that's a good thing to bring back manufacturing with tariffs and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But it's all about the little guys having a piece of the action that they don't have. Okay. It's always been that way.
It's kind of, like there's a handful of problems and kind of everyone has the same problems, but like different parties look at the solutions to those problems differently. And I guess that's kind of where you stand with it. And it falls a lot under where it gets complicated, I think. And so what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe elevated or heated is like, it's my team versus your team.
Yeah.
And instead of a lot of people looking at it as we all have the same problems, just necessarily you might have a different solution than I think is ideal for myself. And it's kind of hard to take yourself out of it for a minute and also look at what's best for everyone. But it's also one of those things, it's like politics it should be maybe one of those things that you think what's better for myself. Because at the end of the day, that's what you're voting for. I don't know. It's one of those things that I struggle with. It's like, should you look at what's better necessarily for yourself or what's better for everyone? Yeah. And I think like as long as, I don't know.
That's the whole battle. You can give all the different names you want. It could be left, right, Democrat, Republican, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. It's individual or collective. And that's what it's been throughout all of history. And the whole...
Which I think at the end of it would equate to the same thing. Because if you look at it statistic-wise, collectively, majority of the people probably have the same problems. So if you look at it individually, I might have the same problem as you. I mean, that's a broad brush I'm painting over it with, but yeah.
Well, it's all about who has the final say. Is it the individual or do you have to submit to this whole thing for the greater good? Who cares if we have the right solution? We're doing this, and you're going to go along with it because that's just what we're doing. It's collective or individual. So, like in the Soviet Union, you're not a person; you're a part of a group, right? And the group is doing something.
It's for the greater good.
It's for just like COVID, just like it's all public health. You don't go to work because we got to protect the public health.
Doesn't matter if you need
it overrides everything. Yeah. And that's kind of the crux of all of it. It's like
that's how it turns political, because a lot of people like try and make the point where it's like, why does COVID have to be based in politics, or why do you have to make politics out of anything?
Yeah.
It's kind of just, it's ingrained into the society.
We got to balance it. It's like, okay, you're making a point with the health. You're right. If it was a deadly disease and I would have people dropping dead all over the place, yeah, maybe we should curtail me going outside and going to work. But what are the statistics? Let's make a balance here.
Yeah.
Don't broad brush this whole thing. We're not going to all listen to Dr. Fauci. I mean, this is one guy.
You sound like everybody on Facebook when I get on.
Well,
but
yeah,
that's the thing. It's like,
but it's really not about Fauci. It's about this one guy.
Yeah.
Overriding everyone else.
Yeah.
You can even like Fauci and you can disagree. Why are we just listening to this person?
A doctor has turned into a political figure at this point.
And doctors get silenced. Like, there was a doctor, his name's, I think it's Peter McCullough, I think is his name. He testified at Congress.
Yeah.
Went to Congress, testified about something. About, it was either the vaccines or COVID or something like that. And it was banned from YouTube. A testimony in Congress was banned on YouTube.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of stuff is just, that's where it gets to the point where, look, we're not even talking about COVID anymore. We're talking about, can I even hear what this guy has to say?
Yeah.
There's a doctor in in Congress. This is where it's supposed to happen. I should be able to see this. Why can I not see this? And it's just that kind of argument that gets like conflated with all the other things. And you can't even like have the conversation about that one thing.
Yeah. Kind of the... this is a kid trying to get off of doom and gloom. That's like, it just is what it is.
Yeah.
Bill Clinton, you mentioned him earlier, as as a multi-talented man such as yourself that is familiar with and has played the saxophone successfully. You think he was really playing the saxophone, or do you think he was like? You think he was?
I've never like scrutinized the video of it.
Yeah.
Like, why not?
But do you like? I love like.
What would be the point of faking that?
To get people to look on his side. Like, remember it? Like,
I've actually never, like, I don't know if I've ever seen a video, honestly.
You've never seen Bill
Clinton?
Clinton?
He played it, but I've never, like, just watched the video of it.
No, but not even to watch him play, like, or whatever, but, like...
If I watched it, I could look at his cheeks and maybe I'll know.
Here's your boy. This is Bill. You think Bill was really playing that sax?
I think it's highly likely. Is that him?
Yeah, it's him as a kid. Look at him. It looks just like him.
He played it as a kid then.
So it's just like a way... It's always one of those things to get... Look at this edit.
I look at the space, yeah.
The space edit. Remember that period in like 2013, 2014, where we were all wearing like rip and dip shit and like Neff shit, and it was all the space theme with the cat. What were we doing?
The cat, yeah.
With the khaki joggers.
Khaki joggers?
Remember like jogger pants? Well, that would cinch at the bottom?
I know jogger pants, but...
Khaki. Everybody had the khaki joggers. Sure. Like if I type in khaki joggers, like you're gonna remember this. I always suck at spelling khaki. Is that right? Yeah.
It's not right, but it's close.
That's close enough. Kai. I'll type in the khaki joggers era. Maybe something will come up. But you remember these pants?
Yeah, those. Yeah.
Yeah, like everybody had these pants.
Pretty sure I had some.
Like yeah, we all did.
I didn't know khaki was. I knew joggers, but
no, it was the khaki. You had like the khaki was the thing. Why is all Naruto coming up? Did we all look like Naruto characters? No, nothing at all. Only Rock Lee had orange and green. And I don't know where I'm trying to land with that, but I mean...
Bill Clinton wore those?
Bill Clinton? No. You think Bill Clinton would have got elected if he would have wore joggers?
Probably not.
Probably not. What's, let's see. I'm looking on just the news right now.
Maybe I should,
Yeah,
for
you
2 hours in, maybe we should look at some topics.
Yeah, because, we're about an hour 50. I got all the time in the world. We'll chop this up. We'll screw it up. We'll make it.
I'm so surprised at how fast it goes on.
Yeah, I kind of gave you the seat and let you take the keys and go with it, and you were just...
I feel like I ranted for too long.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, that's what it's about.
Cut it out.
I've got so much stuff that I saved onto my phone that I forgot to really talk about, but I'm going to kind of just skip some over, and I don't know. You got anything? What are you bringing? What does your black Bible say?
Little black book?
A little black book. Can I call it a Bible?
Little black book, is that something from something?
No, it's just a thing. A little black book holds all the secrets. You've got a lot of notes in there.
This is literally the first time I use it.
Really? Man, yours is... no, mine's nice.
Well, the first thing I have is... Well, it's about Bitcoin, so we can stop talking about Bitcoin.
Can I skim through it? Or it's your secret book that I can't now?
You can skim through it.
What's another topic?
Well, we were talking about doing the This Week in History thing.
Yeah. Okay, so another thing, like I want to, and this is kind of an idea I bounced back in Alec. Alec has kind of been that person I've jumped to with ideas recently, just been, because like I don't have a partner in this anymore. It's just kind of is what it is. We'll see what develops from this, but I've just been wanting a person that was non-biased to just bounce ideas off of. As a man that watches podcasts all day and stuff like that, I felt like his input was valid. We just talked about kind of like coming up with a few segments and stuff like that we'd go through. I got one for you on a little bit, but this one we'll kind of jump into is kind of just what happened this week in history, possibly. And you said you might have some topics on that?
I had some topics, but I actually only wrote down one, and it's the death of George Washington.
Yeah.
December 14th, 1799.
Do you know that?
2 quotes from him.
Okay, read some quotes, and then we'll jump into some information.
First one. Truth will ultimately prevail, where pain is taken to bring it to light.
Okay.
Truth takes pain.
Truth takes pain.
It's not what people want to hear.
It's like when you go through a breakup and you realize after, like, were they crazy? Was I crazy? Was I just immature? All these things you learn from it. You learn from the experiences. I guess it's kind of wrapped up in that same thing. I just got to relate it to common things.
You can be blind to a lot of things until someone brings it up or something makes it.
I've learned that mostly through breakups.
Happiness depends more upon the internal frame of a person's mind than on the externals of the world.
So it's a perspective based off of how you view your current standings instead of what you necessarily have or what's going around you. Yep.
It's how you react to your situation. Actually, one of the best books I've read was a book by James Allen. He's dead, but so an older guy. It's called As a Man Thinketh.
Why does it necessarily have to be as a man?
I guess it doesn't have to.
When was it written?
Man as in mankind, I guess. Feels like.
See, that's why I feel like women get shorted, right?
It was either late 1800s.
I'm going to jump into this topic because we'll go back. But, like, y'all got it fucked. Like, we're on this whole, like, women empowerment movement. And it's probably one of the best times to be a woman in, like, the history of the United States. Just because the fact that, like, you have a lot more acknowledgement and things like that. And a lot of men are coming around the idea. It's like, no, like, women are worth something. And I fucking hate even saying that as, like, a man that was raised by, like, a woman. Like, it's instilled in me, but a lot of people don't realize that. But also, like, here's where I got fucked over. Women. You've got 2 syllables in that word, and the ending of that word is men.
Yeah.
Men. You ever looked at, here's another one. You ever looked at, like, the little stick figures that they make of men and women? Like for bathrooms, let's say, right? Because like you got a men's and a woman's, or like family, non-binary, whatever, all that shit. The man is present in both of them. It's still a man, but it just has a man with a dress on it. They didn't give the figure hair. They didn't give the figure any other attributes. They just put a dress on it. That's another thing too. Is like most women like might not even like wear dresses. Why does a stick figure have to be wearing a dress? Now I get it has to be some broad painted spectrum to be a symbol that symbolizes what a woman is, that people can't even read could understand it.
Yeah.
But it's also pretty stupid. I don't know. That's a tangent off of.
The way I've come to think of it is, we are all man. We're all mankind.
I hate it,
and we have.
I hate it already, but I understand.
But there is a difference.
Saying.
Like there are 2
I understand
parts,
what you're saying.
2 halves to a whole.
Either X and Y, or what, X and X chromosomes. Is that determines what man or woman? Some shit. I'm not a biologist.
Technically, yeah, but like just as a symbol, like just on a grand scale, we are all humankind.
Yeah.
There are 2 halves to a whole, basically. We each have good things. Like we each have, what's the right way to put it? Like men are better at certain things.
Yeah,
women
definitely.
are better at certain things. And
people,
that doesn't make either one inferior or better. No. But there's just different purposes that we have.
People discredit that, but like traditionally, like, and we'll put all other genders aside, but like male and female brains, like, are different. They're wired different. Like traditionally, like females are just better at certain things, whether that be simple, like basic, like let's feed into the stereotype. Like women might be more in touch emotionally and raising family members and all these things that are necessary, like, and extremely valuable that a lot of people don't put value in. But like, imagine like you can be raised without a father. You will be fucked. Like, I've done it, like, and it sucks. But like being raised without a mother, like, you don't have someone that ties the family together, that the family revolves around. Like, in my opinion, like, the family really evolves around the mother, the womanly figure in the family, because it's all about making sure that she is in a perfect position to take care, make sure that all the other things in the family are, she's like the glue that holds everything together, right? Like, and I hate to say that, and of course, like, these roles can be taken on by different sexes, different genders, all these things, but traditionally, like, I think a lot of people overlook how valuable that is. The woman's role in a relationship is just basically the glue that holds everything together, and that puts a lot of stress on them, and I feel like a lot of people don't realize that. And a lot of things, I don't know, like, they're just, women's brains and men's brains are wired differently. I like to think that, like, some have like a certain color wires and we have a certain color wires, and they're just, you know, just wired differently. And I kind of have like this outlook on things, as I look at every human being on the earth as like basically equal. I don't care what you have accomplished, who you are as a person. You know, this is what I do. I represent this as my job as a server. I kind of just treat everyone, doesn't matter what creed, religion, color, I don't care anything, as equal. Now, granted, I would be stupid to look at the situation and say, based off of the past, this is where they are now currently. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't ignore the past. Like, you have to look at tradition, like people of color or like women and stuff like that's where they have had historical disadvantages. I just like to look at it now as like, I treat everyone the same.
Yeah.
Granted, not everyone gets the same treatment overall, but personally me, like, it's very important for me to try and treat everyone, I don't know, just equally, because that's what you're saying.
That's what matters. It's your own personal actions and the way you influence people around you.
Yeah.
And you should all act that way. Like, as far as the historical disadvantages and like what we should do about it, the solution, it's like fighting fire with fire. Or reversing things is not the right way to go about it. Like, we can acknowledge that things happen in the past, that have effects in the future. And you can look at the effects of those things and fix that. I'm sure you can come up with something. But what you should not do is change the system that we all live under in a way that in the current day will disadvantage one group over another. Like, you should not do some sort of revenge tactic, or you should not. Right. The goal is to have, because, I mean, you can be a great person in real life, but everything matters. Like, you are a part of a giant system. If the system has a rule that causes a problem, or the system has wrong incentives, it's going to skew the whole system. If you start using the judicial system in a biased way, if you don't treat everyone according to the law, that's the whole system that's so beyond you and me that's a whole thing in itself, that it will cause problems across the whole society. If you lose if you even lose the idea of treating everyone equally. Yeah. We can have all these rules on paper, but if no one believes in, who cares? We can have the Constitution, but if no one reads it or cares about it, who cares? The people who are in power, they can not care about it at all. And if you don't actually pay attention and think about what's happening and act yourself and participate, it's not just going to go all daisies and rainbows all the time. It can really, really fall apart in a way that, like, it's the whole system. Yeah. You can't even make a difference at some point because it's so beyond you. And I think that's just important in this time that we live in. Don't assume that, someone got it figured out. Yeah. Someone up there, they know what they're doing. They got it figured out. Some scientist, some expert. Well, there's a reason we're doing this. Like with the COVID stuff, it's like, so it's just a bunch of experts, and just as an example, I'm not talking shit about Dr. Fauci, but this guy has one expertise in science, epidemiology, whatever it is. He's not taking into account your income and your economics and all of these other social things that are going on. If you focus on that one thing, saving one life.
And what is his role exactly? He is our what?
He's the head of NIH, National Institute of Allergies and Infectious Disease. Okay. Which is a part of National Institutes of Health. Okay. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but he's the guy.
No, we're going to end this rabbit hole.
He funds a lot of things. He funds universities, like that whole department does. Mm. He's the highest paid person in government, by the way, more than the president.
The president, wow.
He funds So like I was saying earlier, there's like NGOs, there's like other organizations. Yeah. There's one called Eco Health Alliance. I want to say this how it was. He funded that. So those people funded what's called gain of function research.
Okay.
Which happened in North Carolina. Then it got shut down.
Yeah.
During Obama's administration, I think. It got turned around and allowed again, or something of that kind. It ended up happening in Wuhan. There's a lab in Wuhan where they were doing gain of function research, manipulating bat SARS viruses.
All right. I don't know.
I don't understand, but you see him all the time.
Yeah.
On
but
TV.
What I'm saying is like I get all the backstory behind him and stuff like that. We could dive into that later. But basically, is he just a spokesperson for that organization?
Just the go-to guy, like in government,
the most qualified.
Sure.
Okay.
On paper, I mean, he's never treated a COVID patient. Do you think he has? I mean,
but that kind of goes back into again, you're saying that counting on someone else to determine,
someone
centralizing,
who's like detached from the real world.
Right.
That's kind of what's happening now. It's like all these people in Washington and New York, they don't know what it's like to live in rural America, to be addicted to opioids or not have a job.
There's no reality check.
There's like this highfalutin lifestyle that they live,
and they think that
they truly think, I know how to fix this.
Yeah.
I just need the power. And I just need the ability to put my vision in action.
You may have answers, but the answers may not be based in what's effective in the real world because you haven't experienced the real world. It could be a good answer.
It really could be.
But we try it, and does it work?
But that's the point of the way the government was set up originally. It's not supposed to be all federal shit. They're not supposed to have... They're supposed to like defend the borders and do trade agreements.
I think this kind of all circumvents back into like we were talking about the news of the day, which you said the death of George Washington. I remember like reading that he had the opportunity to become a king if he wanted to. But he turned it down to preserve the greater good of the Americas because he didn't believe that one person again should have all this power and should be based in the power in the people and things like that. And I mean, he's dead, but it's his week. So I mean, I think that kind of like sums up like a good, I guess, ending point on that whole thing. It's just like the people that funded or founded our government, right? The founding fathers even, and the first elected people saw all these problems coming. Yeah,
well, they lived through it.
And they lived through it, and now it's just happening over and over and over again.
Once in a lifetime opportunity, a brand new continent. I mean, they were Native Americans. That's a whole other thing. They had an opportunity to say, okay, people think that they're just old white men who else say, if you read what they wrote, it is so beyond intelligent. Like you read it and you're like, wow, these guys, they knew all the history that came before them.
It's Einstein levels of information
they took all that and they said, okay, how can we make, it's not about, oh, this guy has the right solution or this guy has the right, it's about no one has the right solution because no man should have power that way. The whole point of it is to limit anyone's ability to have that kind of power. And it devolves it all the way down to the localist point, like as local as possible.
I think people just look at them like these white men power figures. Yeah. You know why? This is their wigs. How did that become a trend?
Well, there was a whole party called the Wigs.
Right, the Wig Party, right?
Yeah, I don't know all that. I don't know a lot of history about that.
How did that become a trend? I guess it's like us looking back at the khaki joggers with space shit. But like, how did something like... Okay, here's the thing. This kind of relates to everything. A lot of people in the South, or a lot of people that are, let's call them homophobic because I don't have a better term, or people that just don't like men wearing makeup, men wearing fingernail polish, men with long hair, men wearing wigs, all these things. Yeah. How can you not like that when your founding fathers wore wigs all the time? They wore makeup all the time. I'm sure they took care of their nails. They wore these frilly little outfits with this little frilly... I don't know, they had pants that was cuffed with high socks, just like this. And like these very ornate style outfits, and people just like, nah, that shit's girly. How's that?
I guess there's a difference between like, I don't know, that seems like fashion, while this is almost like a lifestyle or a belief of like how you should live your life, regardless of what you're wearing.
But that's what fashion is how you want to be perceived. In my opinion, is how you want other people to look at you, or how you feel most comfortable in, or a different way to express yourself. All these guys express themselves as the same way. They all wanted to look alike. They all wanted to look one way. What were they trying to look like? Aliens, probably.
Actually, I don't know. It's interesting. I've never like looked into why they.
I think it had to do a lot with like Victorian era stuff and whatnot like that, and maybe Roman.
There's a lot like the Victorian area is like all pompous and I got to be perfect and I got to say the right thing. I got to fit in with the crowd. I got to say this thing that makes me feel and seem highfalutin. I don't want to be like these lowly people down here.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what it was, but it probably had a lot to do with like conformity, that kind of thing. Just your status,
what you should look like versus what you are.
Or it could be, I don't know, what the hair situation was going on back then. They want to hide it.
That's another thing I like too. Like working with Ruths, it's like when I serve these people, you never know who you're gonna serve. I serve senators sometimes. I serve like all kind of different forms of people, and like I love now that like someone could come in with sneakers and like a nice pair, like a really like a nice hoodie that looks good on them, and like a nice pair of jeans instead of coming in a business suit, and they can have the same power, influence, money as someone else that's not necessarily like in the business suit, in the tie, you know, with the pin. And wait, what?
I think that's going away. That's kind of like the Silicon Valley thing with the hoodie.
Yeah, it's people. I think that's a lot of millennials coming in and just again trying to change things. Like, hey, you don't have to look, walk, talk, even act like this to be successful. Yeah. I've seen videos where like it was again this little TikTok and this girl was like, I think she was trading crypto and shit like that online. And she was like flying in first class, like filming what she was wearing versus like all these other what you call them like board boys or something like that, and like what they all dressed up like, they were all in their business suits and everything, and she was just like in slides and comfortable, and she was like, they don't know that like I'm doing all this, like they're just like, what the hell are you doing? And that's what like I like that. It's kind of one of those things. It's like if you have something, I don't think you need to show it off. Like I feel like a lot of people need to portray this idea that look, I have money, this is how I dress, this is how you're supposed to. But like I respect people more that are like, I have it. I don't have to show you that I have it. I don't have to be accepted by this, and it's just I'm doing my own thing. Now, granted, I know there's value in how people perceive you, so I know there is some of that.
A lot of people like to dress up because they like to put effort into presenting themselves. Like I put effort. Like I don't know. It's like a dignity thing almost.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, I see what you're saying, and I don't even think it's all about money. I think it's just in that business world. Like back in the day, like if you weren't, it's like a conformity thing. You're part of that class.
Yeah.
If you're not
blue collar, white collar, that's where those names come from and stuff like that.
But now you can write a computer program, make $1 billion, and you were wearing a hoodie, and it's just kind of like a culture. Yeah. It's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
But I think that's coming back because like like this idea that you're part of a certain echelon. If you work in finance, you wear this. It's all coming back down to the local level, to the individual level, where you can have power. So it doesn't matter. Like I don't have to fit in with all these people.
Yeah,
because I can save my money. Yeah, and I don't have to stay on this wheel of like conformity and I got to work this job just to keep up.
Yeah,
that's the sad part about all this. It's like that's why people work so much. Because if you could just work and then save your money, maybe you could stop or work less or anything, but you got to keep working.
You dress like less. Is that why people like Mark Zuckerberg just dresses like the bare minimum? Like once you have so much money, you kind of just don't care. Maybe that's kind of like a reflection of like what it is, like just the basic Old Navy mannequin shit. Like give me jeans and the same shirt and some crusty New Balances, or even remember like Kanye does it now. He just keeps wearing the same outfit over and over again. And
I do that.
Yeah, but I mean,
these sweaters like all I wear.
Yeah. It's like you stop once you become situated, you stop worrying about all those worldly things. Steve Jobs did the same thing.
Yeah, like spending money on clothes. Like I have clothes, I just wear that. Who cares?
Yeah, I remember reading this thing about Steve Jobs. Speaking of him too, like kind of the same thing. He kept buying the same Mercedes every year. Like it was maybe
Mercedes.
Yeah, he would buy like this gray Mercedes, and he would buy the same one like every year. After he would do this thing where like, I think in California, you had like a 2-year or a year period where like you didn't have to have a license plate on your car because it was new. So what he would do is keep buying new models of that car as a loophole, so he never had to have a license plate on his car. Like that's one of those like small stories about him. Like he would continuously buy that same thing because he wanted to have that same look all the time. You know, the clean look. No license plate. Not trackable, just this ambiguous car that's there. Maybe that's why he dressed like that.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's one of those interesting like little
that's like
factoids.
Like a poor person would have some totally different, like the same idea, but it ain't a brand new Mercedes.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like he would buy like, let's say it was 2007. He might have bought the 2007 Mercedes until He died in 2012 or 2013 or whatever he died.
What do you think about him getting killed by PC?
Like people like Windows?
Pancreatic cancer.
Pancreatic cancer. I never actually knew how he died.
Yeah, it's kind of funny actually.
Why is that funny?
No, just because it's PC, like Windows and.
Oh
Mac.
shit!
Yeah.
I didn't even.
Rest in peace, but it is pretty funny.
Yeah, I didn't do the work on that one. Damn.
I'm pretty sure that's what he died from.
Well, let's look it up, and then you have anything else like
Maybe
tonight?
he got murdered by Bill Gates. Maybe.
What do they call that when you got like Princess Diana? You got
assassinated?
Not assassinated, but you got accidentally whatever. What's the word I'm looking for? You got
mafia
suicided or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, like they fake where you kill yourself, or they fake a certain kind of death.
Yeah. What is that called? I don't know.
I don't know the term. Bill Gates.
Not Bill Gates. Steve Jobs.
Let's see. Pancreatic neuroendocrine tumor.
Neuroendocrine tumor.
Pancreatic cancer.
Pancreatic cancer.
PC.
PC.
It was Bill Gates. He did it.
Yeah. I mean, this is him.
Or does it take out his competitor?
By PC.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That was his joke. He thought it all up.
He got the last laugh. Bill Gates got the last laugh.
He's gonna have
and
the
now they say he's involved in COVID and all these other world things. Next podcast, if you want to come back, I'd happily like to have you come back. We talk about there's these whole like ideas or whatever, these like code blah 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 that was like this protocol that was, or this exercise that's practiced right before COVID happened.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
You heard of that one? So there's another one too, and we'll kind of end on this topic, I guess, unless you have any big other topics. But basically, it's them right now practicing the collapse of the internet. And
the internet?
The internet. And the answer to the problem is that they're going to have to reset the internet. And they're practicing this right now, supposedly.
I need to look this up.
And basically, the internet's going to be reset. Everyone's data is going to be reset. Potentially, your Bitcoins and things like that will be reset. Your cryptocurrency.
See, I don't want to go back down that rabbit hole, but
is it possible to take your Bitcoin that way?
See, here's the thing.
Yes or no?
We didn't get into. You'd have to shut down. There would have to be 0 computers on Earth that had the record of Bitcoin. There would have to be not even one hard drive on the Earth that had the set of transactions up to a certain point. If there is one, and you had a communication device like the internet,
so unless they EMP and
propagate it out, the whole world.
So we're gonna end, I guess, on this note. The answer is to buy Bitcoin.
Right, unless they shut down the internet and
then don't buy Bitcoin.
If they EMP the whole world, you might not. Well, see, here's the thing: if they don't have internet, it doesn't operate. Like you can't use your MasterCard if there's no electricity. That kind of thing. But as long as there's one computer out there, one node that has the blockchain of Bitcoin,
up to that point,
whatever point they have, they can propagate it out, and all the computers know
that that's factual.
This is the longest record that we have available.
So buy Bitcoin if you can.
Yes.
What about meme coins?
Don't buy them.
Don't buy them. Unless you want to flip them.
Yeah, if you want to take some risk, if you want to try to make some money, sure. But it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing.
It's money based off of hype. I mean, I guess that's it, y'all. I was going to say thank you for tuning in to, I don't know, I'll name this podcast later. Thank you for tuning in to your favorite podcast. We'll leave it at that, hopefully. From the future, we'll see where this goes. I want to thank you, Alec, for joining me this evening. I appreciate it.
I had a great time. Sorry I ranted so long.
How'd you like it?
It was really fun.
Once
I loosened up.
Once you what?
I think I blacked out.
After 8 glasses of wine. I think he drank 13 glasses of wine. It was like 3. But whatever.
Like 3.
Yeah. Thank y'all. This is going to be a new thing. Again, I'm trying to get back to editing videos, get back to doing all this stuff, trying to build a background around things. Just doing the process more and more, getting more products out there. It's a dream of mine. I'm going to keep chasing it. Remember what it is, what it isn't, what it could be. Thanks for tuning in to your favorite podcast until I figure something else out to name it. Later, y'all.